out to nominal.
Yep. You go calm, configure it and stable. Good and stable. Touchdown.
What's going on, everyone? It's Jeran from Jeranism, back with another video for you today, live with a great guy, intelligent, and while he may not be or may not consider himself a flat earther, he certainly doesn't think he's living on a giant globe of rock, the sphere or the ball Earth. He is Cathexis. Cathexis, thanks for joining me. What's going on?
Not much, man. Just enjoy a beautiful day right now. It's I appreciate you having me on, dude. Been wanting to for a while.
Yeah, me too. Always fun. Missed you guys on Sunday. I was busy with my head in a trash can, which is always fun. You know, can't beat that. So, did you enjoy yourself on Globebuster? It was cool seeing. Oh, now I forgot his name. What's the guy's name? The guy that was on with you.
Timothy Sheep.
Timothy. I was thinking of letter V. That was my problem. Yeah, how was that?
Oh, it was amazing, actually. I've been wanting to talk to him for the past year since I've seen him on London Real. When he did that, it was the oddest thing I had seen because you hadn't seen any public admissions, really.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was around the time of BOB that he did it, but it was pretty direct. It was a good, concise 5 minutes. So, been following him for a while. It was cool to talk to him.
Yeah, I thought he was really cool. I thought for a while that he was going to bail out of the idea of the flat Earth, but he talked about it on Globebusters. That, you know, talking about what we're going to talk about today with what's happened with this weekend and Kyrie Irving coming out and saying that the Earth was flat. You already have seen Brian Callen's reaction.
Oh, God. Yeah.
Let me bring that up just
saw
so
that last night.
in case anybody hasn't seen that yet. We'll watch that real quick. Let's see here. All right. So
Very odd.
Fear.
The Earth.
Very odd.
They're
Huh?
not going.
If you're getting your ideas of what the Earth, the shape of the Earth, from somebody who's a basketball player and not Neil deGrasse Tyson or someone like that, then good for you. And you go ahead and listen to Kyrie and.
But B, that's not fair. You don't know. Maybe he did listen to those guys, and maybe he listened to someone that he thinks is legit, or because there's other researchers.
Sir, let me tell you something right now. There's zero argument for the Earth being flat.
I agree.
So
Me and you are on the same here.
Yeah.
But let's say he listened to Neil deGrasse Tyson, and then some other, because there are some researchers who do, for whatever reason, think the world's
they're not
flat.
researchers, they're idiots. But yeah,
I hear you.
Yeah.
But they're
Okay.
scientists.
Yeah, but if Kyrie Irving believes that, then that part of his brain is dead, and he's a dumb.
I hear you.
But
man.
that's what he was saying, though. He said that he did his research, and that's the conclusion he came to.
Yeah,
so
he's an idiot.
Whoever
bummer.
he's listening to, that's what he's coming.
But
to.
he and the people he's listening to are dummies.
That's a Duke education.
Yeah.
One of the greatest academic schools in our nation.
You keep believing that, and that's all good. You know the science. You're a scientist. When you have time, you're probably working on.
Now, what is going on with the constant picking with his arm and I mean, is this
Shifting
just like
around.
is it like a total trigger that just it baffles me how somebody can act like this, because I know I can't really put myself in a position of hearing about the flat Earth for the first time, but even if I did hear that Kyrie Irving came out and said the Earth was flat, and I thought that we lived on a globe, put me back 3 years ago to where that was my belief, I would have thought, what an idiot. I can't believe he thinks that we live on a flat Earth. And I would have dropped it. I can't imagine being so taken by it that I would get as angry as this guy does. It just doesn't make any sense.
But you see it in the body language so much. I mean, you're going to see it in some of the things he says for sure. But if you watch what he's doing, moving around, shifting around, it gets worse. Actually, it's very odd.
1 second, I'm trying to make sure our sound is good because I think we're a little quiet. So let me see if this gets any better. And we'll try that. Okay,
right.
Bob said that's better, so that's good. Okay, so let's watch a little bit more here, and you can see, watch this guy. With his arm and just the way he's just ready to lose his mind.
Yeah, but B, you're not a scientist. So when
No, I'm not.
so why should
No, I'm
anyone
not,
listen?
Brennan.
You're not a historian
no,
either.
definitely
You're
don't
not
listen
a historian
to me.
either.
Definitely don't listen to me, my friend. But
we do.
But well, because
You can't just say if you're not a historian
No, this is
or a
very
scientist.
This is very.
That's what you just
This is
said.
a very important distinction. This is a very important distinction. Excuse me. When all of the science, when I'm an educated guy who's been alive for 50 years, and there's no scientist, and I mean there's no one who has been alive, who is even a writer, who is a scientist,
Well, that's not true.
who is an astronaut, who works at NASA, who would ever say that the Earth is flat. We put that to
there's a
rest.
scientist.
We put that to rest. Even when Christopher Columbus was alive, most people who were educated knew the Earth was not flat. We put this
B,
to
I'm
rest.
with you, brother.
So
And
when
all
you
our
say, when
listeners,
you say,
I'd say 99% of our
I know,
listeners
but
are
when
with
you say
you.
I don't know, you're putting me on the same level as that moron. You can't do that.
I can do that.
No, you cannot do
B,
that.
just because
my
you read
opinion
it
is
from someone
informed.
else, how do you know him? You do not know him. You do not know what he researched.
Brendan Schaub. When an idiot says
Why
that
is he
the
an
Earth is
idiot?
flat,
Whoa,
he's
Why
an
is he
idiot.
an idiot?
Because he's saying the Earth is flat, and that's
From
an
his
idiotic.
opinion, though.
It's his opinion is idiotic, Brendan. Are
When
you
it comes
giving
to
his?
the Earth, I'm not defending
But
him.
why you are
can't-
defending him?
I'm not.
Don't put him on the same level. Let me
Just
talk.
because-
Let me talk. This is very important.
That's all you've been
Let me
doing.
talk. No, you've been talking the whole podcast.
He's just going off and talking the whole time, and then he's like, "Let me talk. You've been talking. The
Yeah,
whole,
and don't put him on the same level.
with that moron,
Remember that.
And that's just
Yeah.
something I can't see doing. I can't see ever having that kind of reaction to it. It would be more of a, if you guys want to believe that the Earth's flat, believe the Earth's flat. To get this defensive, it really starts to. I think this is a good thing, if you believe in the flat Earth. Because I see this as a huge clue. If I was somebody who was sitting on my couch, heard Kyrie Irving said that, I'd be like, cool, whatever. The guy believes the Earth's flat. He's an idiot. And then as I sat, if I watched this podcast and saw how this guy was acting, I would go, I'm going to go look into this. Because something to set somebody off like this, it doesn't, and I hear a lot of times from other people that, oh, you guys are causing damage to humanity. You're really going to lead people down the wrong path. It's like, people are not stupid, okay? You can't lead people down the wrong path and all of a sudden, because we're all talking flat Earth, it's going to come out as being the truth, even though it's not, and then people are going to all believe the flat Earth, even though it's a lie. It's not going to happen. It's never going to happen. The only way people will believe in the flat Earth, or people will change their opinion from a globe perspective to a linear perspective, is if it's true. And that's the important part, is that people think we're doing you're not going to do any damage. In fact, this is why this guy's an idiot. He's a promoter of science. Everything about science. Science this, science that. Science is the challenging of these things. That's what science is. And if your point is the truth, then it'll stand up to scrutiny.
Well, he does go on a little bit further here in a moment, where he is saying, we have earned this.
Oh, yeah. I forgot he gets into that part.
Yeah, he gets so passionate about it. So you can tell that this authority structure, the white coats at the top, they've constructed this overall, just through social memes and tropes and whatnot. This guy is just, he's either completely unaware, never heard of this not once before, or never had to deal with it, right? And we're watching a man's paradigm being shattered and cognitive dissonance emerging instantly. Or this guy might realize, I don't know, I don't want to get too far down a conspiracy theory with it, but he does act a bit suspicious.
Yeah, and more.
It's almost as if he might know.
That's what I'm saying, is that I almost think it's he's in the position he is. He gets to live the good life. I'm sure he makes some money. He likes his comfortable lifestyle as it is, and anything like this totally jumps in and shatters that. And that's the difference between, I think, what most people might see, and to him he may know. But he definitely, you've watched him on Joe Rogan's show before?
Ugh.
Oh,
it's despicable.
It's despicable.
He's walking metabunk.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, I can't stand that guy, Mick. If you're out there, Mick.
And he's friends with him too, by the way.
No.
Pretty sure he knows him.
Oh God.
Because Mick gets around, dude.
Dude, that guy. He every time if I go into that forum and I make any post or any comment, they immediately move it to a different section and then tell me I broke some rule. Every time. I'm not allowed to comment on anybody's thing. They have all these proofs that they say that the Earth's a ball. I go in there because they make absolute crap sense, and they've even, they draw their whole curvature calculator wrong. They keep putting the tangent line. They put it, aimed at basically at the horizon rather than parallel to the tangent. And I keep going in and making a post, trying to say it a different way. Then they'll just move it. Say, nope, sorry, you broke a rule. I'm like, Mick, you're an ass.
Yeah, those people are arrogant and wrong.
Well, how hard is that? I wish that was my job. I wish my job was to be, it's like these people who think that by debunking the flat Earth, by just promoting the whole idea of NASA, and they think that they're looking smart. To me, they look foolish because we were all taught that. We know what NASA does. We know exactly what their proofs of the globe are, and that's why we don't agree. So, I mean, just to go off mainstream and say, oh, I'm going to be a debunker. Well, how hard's that? It's like, well, I think 9/11 is an inside job. What? How could you think that? Let me just show you this report from the 9/11 Commission, and let me show you these guys from this university that say that aluminum can topple steel, and then you're done because you've proven to your satisfaction that you've debunked this whole conspiracy theory. I mean, it's so easy to debunk conspiracies because that's the point. It's these guys.
Yeah, what I prefer to call them is propagandists. I honestly call him that because, and the same with Snopes and the same with Rational Wiki. Okay,
Absolutely.
If you go and you search anything, and they're always an option. Usually about 4 or 5 ways down for whatever controversial question. But if you go there, they have prepackaged answers, just ready for anybody to just go and check that website and have the response for the conspiracy theory. And you see it over and over and over and over that they go to this. I've caught numerous people where I've stated something, they're like, wait a second, let me check this real quick. And they get on their computer, you go to Google. 30 seconds later, I'm like, you're not on Metabunk, are you? And he was on Metabunk. This is, unfortunately, the globe believers, the ones that we see who have like the biggest resistance to these ideas, they're the ones who are using this constantly. I don't know. It's prepackaged answers, in my opinion.
Okay,
Annoying.
1 second. I'm going to try. I guess you're a lot louder than me, so I'm going to see if I can get my volume up a little. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen. Give me 1 second. And hopefully, Bob, let me know if that's any better. Or I'll get closer to my mic. I'll put it in my mouth. Might help. My wife didn't like that one. She said, ew. Let me see what else can I turn up this part here. Turn this down. Sorry, folks. I'm just trying to make sure that you can hear me because I've got so much good things to say, that you might want to listen. Let's try that. All right, Bob, that should be good. Hopefully that's much louder. Okay, so I brought up Megabunk real quick. Can I log in or do I not have my thing in? I was going to show that every time I post there, they remove me. Yeah, so up here, whenever I go to my alerts or my inbox, it's going to be, that I got moved. Oops, inbox or alerts. How do you look at old ones? I don't even know. Don't go here often enough. Oh, boy, this guy is driving me crazy. Yeah, he just purposely just keeps going in circles. I was trying to show him here that his horizon calculator, or his calculator, I said, this is yours. I said, you're showing this line going from here to the horizon. I said, the correct way. I said, this depiction requires the observer to lean forward. This depiction allows a hump. This depiction matches reality. This depiction disproves any hump. And then I told him, water rises to your eye level, as is the nature of a plane surface on a ball. All areas around you would fall away. No hump, no ball, it's flat. And then he keeps coming back and just saying nonsense to me. He says, please respond with some math or a link to a calculator that provides. So I'm like, what are you talking about, dude? This guy just drives me crazy. Yeah, we just go back and forth. And what did I do wrong here now? Because I told him, please provide the correct answer with a working to demonstrate you understand a globe Earth model. It might be helpful for you to draw. I don't know what he's talking about. Anyway, I always get my posts removed. They just get moved. If I try and make a post, it doesn't last. Oh, here comes Bob again. Hopefully you can hear me. Much better. All right, good. Okay, so let's go back over here and finish off this guy's flipping out. Okay.
Let me talk.
Why are you so upset? Why are you so defensive?
Because I'm tired of this bullshit. I'm tired of this.
You don't do this with Eddie Bravo.
I'm tired of this out because because it would get ugly. I am tired of this Alex Jones stuff. I am tired of, I was thinking about this at 50 years old. I'm tired of, I'm not going to try to be liked anymore because I think there's such ignorance in the world, starting with Donald Trump, who's calling all the news fake. I'm not a fan of a lot of the media, but I am so sick and tired of all these people with all their misinformed points of view, where they are just completely bucking eons of history and knowledge that's been earned. There is scientific knowledge, like vaccines, antibiotics, like the earth being round. These things have been earned over hundreds of years. And by the way, we all benefit every single day from science that has been earned, that has been experimented on, that has been proved. For example, the science that goes into your phone, the science that goes into giving you fresh vegetables and food in the wintertime, the science that gives you life-saving drugs, whether you have Hodgkin's lymphoma or you have an infection. These are the things that we benefit from every single day. They are empirically proven, meaning that they are measured from independent lines of inquiry.
Oh, boy.
And all of a sudden with the internet, you have these cuckoo birds.
No, oh, man, that makes me sick.
Oh, this is great, isn't it?
Yeah, it just makes me sick, these people who have no clue, because all they're able to do is go to Metabunk. All they're able to do is go to Wikipedia. They don't understand that there is correct alternative views. It's not a matter of mainstream views are correct, alternative views must be incorrect. You need to recognize that, as far as vaccines go, all you need to do is look at the companies that supply them, and then go look at that every single one of them. And I say that when I say every single one, I mean every single company that supplies a vaccine has admitted in a court of law to fraud. That alone should tell you there's a problem. That these are not companies out for your good. These are not companies looking in your best interests. These are companies who are looking to make every dollar they can. And for somebody just to come out and say something like that is just, it baffles me that they don't understand that it's all about making money. What do you think? How would a doctor want to cure you? He doesn't make money if you're cured. It's just crazy.
Yeah. This right here, and I hate to say it, but this is a prime example of what I'm talking about when I say scientism.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a belief that he has about what he thinks science is, which it's
his
bit
religion.
Distorted. It's religion. The way he's behaving is like somebody just like crushed his religion.
Right. If he really liked science, he would say, well, the good thing about science is that when we do test whether the Earth's going to be flat or a ball, it's going to show to be, the ball, and just leave it at that.
Yeah.
That's, if you were a fan of science, then you would be, at least, you would at least understand that science is going to win out. When somebody gets...
Yeah, the truth is going to survive any investigation.
Correct. When you get defensive like this, it tells me you're afraid that science won't win. It's like to say that, we've earned this. Well, that's not how science works. You don't earn anything. It should be a constant trying to debunk the current going belief. We'll go ahead and finish this here.
Who come out and start talking about the earth being flat. They start coming out and talking about how there are these giant rings of globalist pedophiles who are controlling the strings, and this virtuous guy named Donald Trump is coming along and saving the day. When you have the benefit of spending a lot of time being educated and seeing and understanding how patterns emerge and studying history and seeing how bad ideas come about and kill people.
Oh, boy.
That's what happens. People die when the wrong ideas win the day. That's really what happens. And people get hurt. And when you stop vaccinating your children blanketly, because you don't trust anything about the pharmaceutical companies, and you don't know how they're evil, you don't know how to distinguish between how they are evil.
I just said every single one of them admits to fraud in court, and that's enough for me to say, okay, I'm going to question everything that these guys say. And when they put out these vaccines, he said independent testing. They don't have independent testing. Merck uses its own testing scientists who have admitted in court to being told to pass certain drugs and vaccines. That's all you need to know.
Why they're evil, but you just blanket them and say they're all liars, the way Eddie Bravo does.
And if you guys haven't seen this video, awesome video that Jesse Spots comments on after, and I think Jesse Spots is right on basically the whole rest of this video. and what he says about him, that it's pretty scary to have what he thinks is scary is people like us, and what I think is scary is people like him.
That's a shame.
Let me go to another. It's just more people talking about Irving, just to kind of talk about the
I'm sure
response.
you heard a lot about this down in New Orleans this past weekend as Kyrie Irving expressed his beliefs that the world is not round, but flat, right? So our producers want us to fill in the blank. They just want to know where we stand on this. The world is blank. I'm going to say round, oddly enough, right?
Have you seen this one?
I saw a portion of it.
It's funny because the girl actually had me when she says it's flat. I was like, what? She actually says that? And then she goes on and says it's flat. But then when you get towards the end of the video, she's like, no, I'm kidding. He's an idiot. Why would he ever think that?
Oh, no.
Yeah, watch. Fast forward a little bit so we don't have to watch the whole thing.
Oh, that's funny.
But when it's her turn, she kind of gives the whole troll move.
That's how he can tell that, yes, indeed, it's not flat, it's round. You don't believe in rotation?
I don't believe that the Earth is round.
Oh, boy.
The Earth is 100% flat, and dinosaurs do not look the way we think dinosaurs do. It is all digitally contrived. I am completely with Kyrie Irving on this. And listen, I was raised in public school education. I went to the University of Maryland, a public school. And public school is not as good as private school. I will go ahead and admit that. I've been told that my entire life. Kyrie Irving went to Duke, a very prestigious private school where the education levels are much higher than anything that you can find in public school.
She totally had me.
Dude, that's full-blown troll mode right there.
She admits that. She says here in a second that she's like, I'm totally trolling. She says, this is watch.
No, of course.
Oh, I thought you were like trying to campaign
I'm
for
trolling.
Secretary of Education or something.
I'm trolling.
I thought that was maybe your speech that you were going to present to Congress.
It is ridiculous. And if I'm Duke University, I'm absolutely putting out a statement that it says, we do not condone this type of behavior and spewing these alternative facts and fake news. I mean, poor
boy,
Jeremy
there
Lin.
goes the keywords.
Wow.
I don't know. This is what I
Dude,
think.
there's the play. Hold on. The whole fake news thing arrived about a month ago. You guys covered it quite well.
Yeah.
You and Nathan. And it's like perfect timing. Now Kyrie comes out and says this.
Yeah, it's just it's the fuel that they need, and they need to be. That's what they want to have ready in their pocket, so that anything that comes out that's pointing out their flaws, and they're going to immediately go to fake news and fake sites, and we need to have alternative facts.
Was also thrown in there.
Yeah, this is what I think of people who are supposedly think we live on a ball.
Radical jump. All right, this is coming for you, Johnny boy. Okay, 1, 2.
There we go. That's what happens when you try and live on a ball. Is this the one? There's another one I found or Mark found, I guess.
The Earth is flat. Things that have been told to him.
He's got to be trolling everyone. There's no way he really believes this. And if he does believe it, anyone who there's some things that no one's going to refute this. The grown-ups are not going to refute this. For people like you, disqualify yourself from adult conversation when you say preposterous things like this, unless you're trolling. And the man went to Duke. I'm assuming he's trolling. I'm assuming he's making some larger point. If he's not, good grief. I mean, oh my.
He also doesn't believe in dinosaurs, apparently. Stephen A?
He had to be joking around. I mean, Kyrie Irving is not somebody that I find to be, lacking intelligence or anything like.
And the hard part about all this is that I totally understand where they're coming from. I mean, because my wife told me, what if the Earth is flat? I told her to shut up, that she was being stupid, that we don't question that. We don't need to question things like that, because they're.
It took me a month to be able to take it seriously in any way.
Yeah, and
hearing about it, seeing it, I was annoyed by it.
And it takes the actual research. I mean, that's what I think. The people who I think I actually tweeted something today that I saw somebody say, to me, what changed my mind about the globe versus the flat Earth is simply seasons. That the flat Earth better describes seasons, and the globe Earth makes no sense as far as seasons go. As soon as he said that, I just replied back and said, "This is when I know somebody's done research. That it's not just the Earth's flat because I want to say so today. That if you've done the research, then you should have in your arsenal so many things." And that's why,
Yeah,
you know, you've got
very
people
obscure
who,
things too, usually.
yeah, and there's so many things. That's what these guys don't understand. And I was going to make a video on this and call it perceived perfection, because the globe is a perceived perfection, that we were taught about it and explained it in a way that it seems to be perfect, and it seems to operate the way that they taught us. So you're just like, oh, okay, well, so when somebody says the earth is flat, your immediate thought is like these guys, that he must be trolling because it's impossible, because we've got all this scientific evidence, and we don't teach things to third graders or second graders as scientific fact unless they are absolute concrete scientific fact. Now, when you go and research it and you realize, wait a second, a scientific method says there's supposed to be tests that are repeatable and falsifiable, and I can't find any of those things to prove it to myself, then you look at it and you go, oh shit, now it makes sense why they teach it to second graders, why they force it down your throat when you don't have the ability to grasp it, to understand it. It gets put into your psyche. You know, what do they say? The first like 8 years of your life are when your brain is, you know, at its most wide open, or it's developing. And so
you have so many billions more neurons that are just right there in the back of the head that are trying to form neural connections. So from up till the age of 8, the brain is ridiculously absorbed. You can put like 4 languages in front of a child just to poke around with, and it'll be enough for the most part for them to be able to learn it later easier. So they make neural connections. So yeah, up till 8, you know that old phrase, you know, give me the child till 8 and I'll show you the man, essentially, or the biblical phrase. It's true, but they give us the globe at 4, at 5, at 6. And then when we get to a critical age, usually about, I don't know, 12, 14, you're in earth science, they glaze over everything.
Yeah, exactly. And even if you were to ask your teachers questions about it, they can't explain it. They you know, they get the magic G word, and you know, and that's basically how you describe it. You can say, you know, oh well, I don't understand people being underneath me upside down, and they'll say, oh no, it's gravity holding. You know, at that age, nobody's going to think to themselves, well, hold on a second, how can this magical force of gravity hold the trillions of pounds of water to the bottom of the globe? Can hold it just fine, but you know, butterflies or whatever can just take off from a leaf, and grass blades grow straight up and down, and you know, there's so many things wrong with the globe, so many things that have to be taken on faith, and that's fine. I don't even mind that you know, because I think people can believe whatever they want. That's their prerogative. If you want to believe in the globe, believe in the globe. But the problem with it is when you look at it after the fact and you go, hold on a second, this was a belief from the very start, and it was taught to me as a fact. Now, you're going to have people, let's say, you know, these trolls out there, these people who believe in the globe, they're going to come back and say, well, you don't have any proof of the flat earth, therefore the best going theory is the globe. You know what? I wouldn't even disagree with them, except for the fact that we're looking for the proof and the evidence that is required when something's called scientific fact. And if you can't find that, if you're not able to ask yourself the question, why was this forced down my throat at the, you know, grade 2, unless there is something behind it? Because then when you find out, you look into the flat earth and you say, hey, the flat earth actually has a lot of points, has a lot of quality arguments for these things. And then you say, well, why were we taught it was stupid? Why were we taught about the water going off the edge? Why were we taught these things that are not even included in the idea of a flat earth? Well, then it should become obvious. And that's why if somebody asked me, you know, are you a flat earther? I would say, yeah, you know, I would call myself a flat earther. But at the same time, I'm calling myself that not because I have proof of it, more because I have proof that I was taught something as a fact, as a scientific, cold, hard fact that I've now realized is not. And then pulling all the information that I've gathered together, looking at all the things in the studies and the books written by Edwin Hubble and these guys, and realizing the things that they say, and looking at, you know, Ellis and George Ellis, you know, who says it flat out. He says cosmology is attempting to hide the fact that they base their models off of philosophical reasons and ideas. When anybody has mentioned the words cosmology, which is a science, and hide the fact in the same sentence, we've got a problem. People need to wake up. If you've got a certain entity of science that is trying to hide something from you, then you need to look into that and not just be a globetrotter and just say, nope, the Earth's a ball because it's got to be, because that's what we were taught. and there's all this evidence, and you don't have any evidence of the flat Earth. You don't know how the stars work in the south, therefore you're wrong. No, as a human race, we need to be smart enough to recognize something is up here. Something is up, and we should join together and turn our heads to these people who taught us this thing was a fact and say, what the hell, man? Not to attack flat earthers as idiots and morons because they're questioning, you're questioning the current belief. Big deal.
Yeah. That's really it too. And that's why, I love the movie The Principle, and it's shattering people's paradigms in its own little way, but that's all we're doing here is questioning our cosmology. And it really annoys me because this is what all societies have always done. They've studied the cosmos in whatever way, inner space, outer space, what they can see, what they can, this has been a big deal. You look at every single culture before the globe, it was this. There is a consistency with it being flat, motionless, with a dome over it. But what I find interesting is modern day education doesn't really present this stuff to you. You might find out about it in like a humanities course, in an obscure way.
Mm-hmm.
But it's never going to be pointed out, like, oh, here were all the flat Earth models right here, and then here's Robotham, and here's, you know what I mean? And go down the line of historically. They're not going to do that in any way.
Now, wouldn't that be the case if the globe was the truth? If the globe was the scientific...
Well, where's the book on the 200 proofs the Earth's a globe? That's what I want to know.
I just think that, that should be the most obvious thing to people, is that if it was the fact, then they would drill it home with evidence and facts, and here's Robotham's model to second graders, third graders, show them these other ideas. They thought that there was an ice wall. They thought, Antarctica was this outside ring. Well, here's the evidence. Here's the proof. They don't want to even touch it. They don't want you to even think it. I thought about this.
Like, take like some ninth graders out, on as a teacher going out and doing a field trip. Take them to a beach. Show them how flat the horizon is. Show them the sun and moon moving, whatever, point it out and whatnot. And then say, okay, now I know we experience a flat, motionless Earth, but here's why it's a globe.
Right.
And then explain why it's a globe. You won't ever find that. Because when you weigh up what...
That should be the problem, though.
I wish somebody could give me 10 good reasons the globe's real. I want to hear that.
Yeah, and there's actually a web page. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's like, is the Earth flat? I'll put in here. I'm typing that in. Because the top 10 are hilarious. And for somebody to say that these are scientifically based is ridiculous. Okay, here we go. So let me switch over to this. Where's my browser? My browser. Transition. Okay, so this is the 10 ways you can tell for yourself that the Earth is not flat. Okay, so this is, popular science. Okay, so this is better be scientific. Okay, we got a nice picture here. Thank you. And let's see here. So, all right, number 1, the moon. Okay, so saying that this curvature is the Earth. It can be nothing else. End of story. It is the number 1.
No Rahu, no K2.
Say it again.
Don't worry about those guys. No Rahu, no K2. Don't worry about those guys.
Yeah. And then you've got ships in the horizon, which hopefully people have seen my video. I think people.
It's a wide's tale.
Yeah, I think people have done a better job than I have that explaining why this simply is not the case, and can be shown, proven empirically that it's not happening. Especially when you're told that at 3 miles it goes away from you, and people can watch boats go for hours out there, and they are not going away. And then you zoom in, and you can even get them for longer. So clearly, this is not what's happening. And there is that mirror plane. We had Wide Awake on the Globebuster show recently. He did a good job at explaining some stuff that he's seeing. The varying star constellations. So it's talking about what you would see. This person can't see these stars, but he can see these stars. And we've actually shown many times over how, basically just think of how you're at 90 degrees with the Polaris when it's at the center if you were at the North Pole. And yeah, if you walk to the 45 degree, you're going to be at a 45 degree angle from Polaris. That's, the way it works on a flat Earth as well. And hopefully after this all, Cathexis and I were talking last night, and I showed him something I found with directions on the globe. Maybe we can hit that up.
Yeah, sure.
Shadows and sticks. This is another one they're showing. Basically, I've debunked that. At least if anybody still believes that Eratosthenes did anything in 275 BC to discover or to measure the circumference of the Earth, they're kidding themselves.
I want to know if they had cell phones back then.
Yeah, he must have. Yeah, I don't know how that even. I mean, I was looking at yesterday. I was even looking into how they came up with the distance, or the distance of the sun, or the size of Venus. And there's a story of 16 something to where one guy's on one side of the Earth, the other guy's on the other, and they get the exact time. It's like, dude, these guys didn't have timepieces. They didn't know the distance across the Earth. It's ridiculous. And this one here, as far as those sticks, it works as well with a small sun. If you had a small sun here where I'm circling, and it would have no shadow here, but it would create a shadow here. So it's certainly not any proof of any kind of globe. You've got seeing farther from higher. This is the funniest thing. This is a scientific website. And you wouldn't be able to see. Look at there. Nope, both guys can only see to the tree. Oh, okay, thanks. That makes a lot of sense. Unbelievable. Yeah, so if you're at ground level and I'm in the Burj Khalifa, we can only see the same distance.
It's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
I don't understand how they don't understand. That's my biggest problem.
Neither do I. How about ride a plane? That's a good way to prove it. Oh, man.
Oh, an airplane?
Yeah, ride a plane. If you look out the window of a transatlantic flight, you can, most of the time, see the curvature of the Earth in the horizon. The best view of the curvature used to be on the Concorde, which I have video of. There's no curve. Crazy. Look at other planets.
What's the etymology of the word plane?
Yeah, I wonder. Look at other planets, because, that always tells you exactly where you live. Right? And other planets, they say look at other planets. I've looked through a telescope. I don't know if you guys have. You're telling me that you can guarantee those things are... Not, and I wouldn't even say that they're not spheres. Let me just say first, how do you know how big they are? Somebody's told you how big Jupiter is. You don't,
also the mass and the atmospheric.
And the core. They'll show you the little cutout piece of the ball with what the core is made out of and what metals are in there.
The chemical composition of its atmospheres.
This is proof the Earth isn't flat. The existence of time zones. Jeez, it's baffling.
A slightly embarrassing story. When I first ran into it, I told you I struggled with it for like a month. I'd watched some these guys. What the hell are they on about? And then I went to some debunked videos, and some guy used the time zone thing. I was like, I can't figure out how you're gonna get time zone.
Oh,
I looked at it, and I had to go to work, so I just took off. And I had a friend of mine that I was talking to about all this, who I used to work with, and I said to him, "Yeah, it's stupid, man. Time zones. Come on." Like, it was to that superficial point at first, because I was annoyed by it. But when I finally pushed through and looked, it takes a while to break the cognitive dissonance off of these guys. And you're seeing it in all the videos that we've shown.
Yeah, and this is great. The center of gravity. I mean, again, okay, so they've told us all that everything pulls equally to the center of the sphere. That's fantastic. Then realize, where is the proof, the evidence of that? And realize there's zero. There is no proof of anything pulling anything to any center. That they just tell you that, and you're supposed to accept it. You have no other choice, because I guess they say then, well, look at what happened here. If things were pulling to this, now they're making the gravity pull to the center of the flat Earth like this, like it wouldn't just be down. Gravity can't just be all the way across here. It's got to be the center point. It's ridiculous. Yeah. And then the other one, images from space, which if anybody thinks images can't be faked, well, I hate to tell you that they can. So that's their 10. That is their 10 ways that we know that the Earth is a ball. And, again, there is alternative views of all those, but again, you're not allowed alternative facts. You're only allowed to believe what mainstream tells you. Maybe this is the one I actually was thinking about. Because the one I was looking at, Eric DeBase mentioned in here. How nice. How nice of them. But anyway, it's just a complete and total disaster that what has happened. And I feel, that guy Brian Cowan I feel like he has obviously never looked into it. But
big time.
And that's the problem. And that's why I'm, about this whole Kyrie Irving thing coming out. I love it, because to me, I bet you, I was saying 50 million last night. You were saying more. I bet you there is a ton of people that heard Flat Earth in their ear for the first time this weekend.
It's in the public consciousness now in a way that it hasn't been before. That's right. For
sure. This is Daniel Bryan. Did you see this one yet?
Oh, God. Yeah.
This is from wrestling.
So dismissive.
Oh, God.
That's low brain, according to AJ.
I have a cold. I'm kind of dumb.
Hey, AJ, do you want to talk about how you think the Earth is flat?
Do you want to talk about how your feet are flat?
they are flat. But like he legitimately thinks the Earth is
I
flat.
do not think the world is flat. I'm just saying there's some stuff about it.
He's a flat earther.
I'm
so
not a
he
flat
wants to
earther.
say that I think slowly.
Okay.
The Earth is a sphere.
Okay.
Axis.
What?
Runs on an axis.
Okay. Good.
Axis runs on an
Held his
axis.
ground.
Gee, yeah, and
I'm not a flat earther. I'm just saying there's some things about it that make sense.
I feel bad for him too, because I can tell this is like these guys hang out, they fly together, they're wrestlers, they travel about 250 or 300 days a year, and you can tell he said this at some point in like a private conversation, like that he thinks the Earth is flat, and then this guy just called him out in front of, and he's just like, but he's still he
It's
just
a
said,
dick move.
It's a dick move. Well, especially because people feel it makes them feel so smart. It makes them feel so smart to feel like they know that the Earth's a ball. And they don't have any evidence. It is a belief. It is a belief, just as somebody could say that the flat Earth is a belief. Great, I'll agree with you. It's the same belief. So now tell me why one of them was taught to me as a fact, and not just a fact, but a scientific fact, without all the evidence and all the experiments and all the testing that goes along with scientific facts. I mean, that's my problem. I don't want things taught in schools as fact that aren't. It's that simple. I wanted to do one other. Hopefully I can find it. There was another video of a guy who actually was a flat earther. Have you seen that one? What did I do with it? Or maybe it's this one.
No, not off the top of my head.
From the Road Trippin' Podcast with Richard Jefferson
Oh,
and
this
Channing
one.
Fry, which,
No,
by the way,
this
you
is
can get on iTunes
pretty funny
and
too.
download.
We'll watch
Shameless
this one,
plug.
but there's
It
another
really
one too.
is
I'll
good.
find
If
it.
you ever want to know what it's like riding on a plane around the NBA, that's what this podcast is. And what happened on the last trip before the All-Star break, that was what we just heard Kyrie Irving declaring, the Earth is flat. This story blew up so much in New Orleans, Adam Silver was asked about it in his official commissioner's press conference. What was your reaction when Kyrie announced this to you?
Well, Kyrie's a really intelligent guy, and he
Went to
won't-
Duke?
He went to Duke. He won't say anything without reading, without doing his own research. And I think it was more to open up people's thoughts and people's minds. And this is why I will say, it is a conspiracy theory that the Earth is flat. But you go around the room and you talk to almost anybody. Was 9/11 an inside job? Who shot JFK? Like I'm saying, you can go through all the conspiracy theories that you want, and there are a ton of them out there, and this is one of them. So if these are his views, these are his thoughts, then I respect them, and that's what the podcast is about giving guys an opportunity to put whatever they think is out there. Shoot, our president with the birther. Like, think about that. That's a conspiracy theory. That's
great.
Yeah, he's good.
But I'm just saying though. But there are.
And she says right there, it's not true about the birther thing. If anybody hasn't looked into that, it is true. It's been proven. It's been proven. You can go look at it. There is absolute evidence that, well, it's not a fact that he wasn't born here. It's a fact that he faked his birth certificate. So
Yeah, there were some discrepancies with the one he put out. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, they actually found the source document that you can take the writing that's on the source document, lift it, pull it right over to the new document. It fits exactly perfectly to a point of, impossibility that it can be by chance. That they basically lifted the same ink off one document and put it on another. There's no way you could duplicate that. It's proven. So it's like ridiculous that people just think it hasn't been proven because they only believe, they don't want to believe alternative facts.
Well, Trump had to essentially kind of concede that before he went in the White House. There was a speech that when he met with them, I saw an article saying that he recants his birther status. He believes that he's clean and good to go. I thought that was really interesting. He did that about 3 weeks before he went into office.
I thought it was weird.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so total forgery. And then also, for anybody, he's talking about 9/11 and things like that. Again, if people have earned your trust, then I believe in trusting them. My wife, I trust her. There's people that I trust that I'm going to pretty much believe no matter what they tell me just because they've earned that. They, haven't ever lied to me. When you're talking about the American government, anybody who believes anything that they say is a confused individual because there's so many things that have been admitted. I understand. I'm not talking 9/11. I'm not talking about things like that. But there's so many things that have been admitted before that.
Gulf of Tonkin always comes to mind.
The Lusitania. I mean, there's so many things that are out now. Watch this one here. If you don't know if you've seen this.
This was unearthed by a researcher at Wellesley College What she found is that in the 1940s, doctors at the U.S. Public Health Service, a part of the U.S. government, were interested in studying syphilis and penicillin. They had penicillin. They weren't quite sure how well it worked. It was in the early days of penicillin. So they went to Guatemala, and they found some prostitutes with syphilis, and they arranged for the prostitutes to have sex with prisoners in jail and also with patients who were in a mental hospital, to infect those patients and then give them penicillin to see if it worked. Now, sometimes the patients didn't get sick, so what they did was and this is really horrible, they took their arms and their penises and would abrade them, would sort of rough them up and pour the bacteria onto that skin. And then when that didn't work, they would sometimes just inoculate into the spine. They would do a spinal puncture and give the syphilis that way. And then they would try the penicillin to see how it worked. And let me read a little bit from the apology. It's just coming, today. This happened.
Hang on, this is a U.S. government.
Yeah, and so if you think she's about to read the official apology of the United States for doing this, anybody.
What was the time frame of this? When did this come out?
I think when did this video come out?
Yeah.
I don't know about the video. I think she said the date was the 70s or something that they did this. But I think it was.
Yeah, but when was this one, you think?
I don't know. The name of the video is U.S. apologizes for infecting Guatemalans with STDs. I don't have a date of it on here because it's a downloaded thing, not from.
Oh, no problem. I'll look into it later.
Human guinea pigs.
Human guinea pigs,
All right.
sponsored by the U.S. government. So here's the apology. We deeply regret that it happened, and we apologize to all the to all the individuals who were affected by such abhorrent research practices. I know, it's almost like you don't know what to say.
I mean, we think about, you remember the Tuskegee Institute, the research there that they did on African Americans. Before we get to that, we'll get to that part of it. Why did it take 60 years to come to light?
You know what? Apparently nobody knew about this. This researcher at Wellesley College was looking into the experiments done in Tuskegee and found that this one doctor named John Cutler, that before he did Tuskegee, he went to Guatemala. So she found these documents and she brought them to light. As a matter of fact, we called the Guatemalan embassy this morning to get a response, and they didn't really even have anything to say. They said this was new to them. They had just heard about it.
And we mentioned the Tuskegee experiment.
Jeez, crazy. Somebody asked in the chat, I just saw it pass by, that what does this have to do with Flat Earth? It has to do with the trusting of people who are giving you your information. That look at who is responsible for your education. It's the American government. And when you find out, look at NASA. How did NASA start? It started with Nazi scientists who were snuck into the country. Now we look at it as everyday knowledge. People know that Operation Paperclip existed. You have to remember that during the 40s, mid 40s to late 40s, that these things were not known. These things were not understood. They had the Nuremberg trials going on, in which they were, trying and punishing people who were responsible for war crimes. But at the same time, they took 1,000 scientists who were killing people, testing on their ability to mind control, things like that. They brought them over under assumed identities, wiped their slate clean, and made them in prominent locations all across the country, including the head of NASA. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. And then only 24 people get prosecuted in Nuremberg.
That's all that was responsible for that. Yep. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you just get to pick and choose.
The history is all right there. It's not a conspiracy theory. That's history. And then you look at Jack Parsons' connection. Wernher von Braun and his team.
Yep.
You look at 6,000 died at Penumbrum. I can't remember what the name of it's called. The V2 rocket factory.
Mm-hmm.
6,000 slaves died there. And then he rained down on London.
Yep.
With those V2s, supposedly. I've heard some conspiracy theories about it. Nobody got hurt type things. But then we bring him over and we turn him into a hero 10 years later.
Yeah, that's crazy. I can't believe I didn't save the other video. Maybe I can find it. I thought it was on Mark Sargent's channel. But it was a video where there's a guy at the end of the podium, or the end of the little, there's a group of 5 of them behind the counter. And the guy at the end says that the Earth is flat, that he believes that. So I'll have to try and find that, because I don't know what happened to it. Now, I did want to talk real quick about Neil deGrasse. You saw this one here where he looks high as a kite.
Oh, yeah.
No,
we'll go ahead and watch that.
You saw this, right? Don't get me started.
I gotta know.
Okay, well, I'll let you finish your question. Go.
Kyrie Irving says that he, even though has been told the world is round, believes it to be flat. What is your thought process on this?
So, okay, let me be blunt, okay? We live in a free country. So you ought to be able to think and say whatever you want. If he wants to think Earth is flat, go right ahead. As long as he continues to play basketball and not become head of any space agency.
That's a great point.
So my point is, if you have certain limitations of understanding of the natural world, stay away from jobs that require that. Okay, the understanding. That's all. That's all. That's all I'm saying. And we'll try to convince them along the way, because I think it's better when we have an educated electorate rather than a scientifically illiterate electorate. Just better all around.
What I notice that I like about these is, I think that him and Bill Nye have made themselves look like silly ducks. They can't come up with one proof. The other day on Joe Rogan's show, he says, Joe Rogan's asking about the curve, and he's talking about the curvature due to gravity, the gravity drop. And then he says, oh, and how much curvature would there be in a mile? And he's thinking about, so he doesn't even know the equation because the answer's in the equation.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And then he didn't understand what Rogan meant about drop, in relation to what you can see behind the horizon. He immediately just picked up on it and said, yeah, gravity drop. Yeah, that's a thing too.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is, and this is something I've just realized the last 2 days, I've always thought that Neil had something to do with Joe Rogan's switch, because about 5 years ago, Neil deGrasse was on Rogan's show, and they're talking about the moon landings, and Rogan is on point, man. He's hitting every single good point, putting Neil in a position where Neil's having to make crazy, convoluted answers that just are not at all proving anything. And then after that show, it was when it was flipped, flip the switch, where Joe Rogan started to speak only from the perspective of, no, I don't have the right to question science. I don't. A lot of people have put so much time and effort into studying these things, and who am I to say anything against it? So I always thought that it was Neil who talked to him. Now, what I found out was, when you watch the most recent Joe Rogan, when he had Neil on, halfway through that conversation, at some point, he says to Neil, hey, I know I only have you for another hour because you have to hit your flight. And then Tyson says, yeah, hey, thanks for getting me in on such short notice. I appreciate that. And Joe says, yeah, anytime you call me. So that tells you that Neil, after this whole thing came out about basically Kyrie Irving, he had to call Joe and say, I need to get on your show. And then I heard, so then that's those two things. But then I heard today, hopefully I have this video. I thought I did. Let me see. Alex Jones says that he talked to Joe Rogan and that he was threatened, and that it was 5 years ago. So now we've got basically
that's about the right time.
About the right time. And
wait, who said that? Who made that clear again?
Alex Jones.
Oh, Alex Jones said that.
Which is really crazy, because I don't really understand it. If Joe Rogan told him that, I'm pretty sure he meant in confidence, not to go tell everybody. What good does that do to tell somebody, oh yeah, Joe was threatened. He told me he was threatened. Well, I'm sure the people that threatened him are not real happy with that whole thing coming out. Right?
Oh, I found a video on it.
Oh yeah, let me find that video, because I'm not seeing it in my little list here. 1 second, we'll find that for you guys. And yeah, it's pretty crazy too. And he flat out says it. And then, Alex Jones, if there's anybody there's nobody better for a good laugh than that guy. Because, I mean, I like him. I mean, a lot of people don't. A lot of people say he's a shill or this or that. He alerted me to a lot of stuff. I mean, I don't think that there's microphones in my trees, which, I know he goes kind of crazy and over the top, and he definitely pushes fear porn, and he makes conspiracy theories look ridiculous. I understand that. But at the same time, he also, tells a lot of truth behind it. Although lately his whole flip-flop on the Pizzagate thing is suspicious. And also he'll never say the word Jews. He'll never even mention that.
Yeah, it's just about having discernment in what you watch. People get to attach to, who these people are, and just take the information in.
Absolutely. So let me see this. Which one are you looking at? Is it where can I find it?
Oh, Alex Jones exposes Joe Rogan ? 3 minutes 46 seconds.
It's on it's a YouTube video, right?
Yeah.
I hate any other website. None other website works videos for me. I see InfoWars, but I don't know why I don't see Alex
send it
Jones
to you.
exposed.
This
Oh,
might
here we
be-
go. I see it. So let's see. You said it was 3 minutes and something seconds?
Yeah, 3:45.
Okay, I think I have the same video.
So Darwin's idea came from
No, that's not the one.
They believe.
No, he's there's one where he's actually at his desk. Oh, here we go. Alex Jones confirms 9/11 show
So-
blocked.
We're going to be getting into that whole stack. We're going to be getting into
Sorry, I need to bring this
how
up. My bad.
Starbucks in Saudi Arabia won't serve women, but Starbucks is fine with that. They just want to create racial division here in America.
Yeah, I think I found it.
How our country's
Oh,
so
here it
bad.
is. I found it too. Okay, so this is the part here where he talks about it here towards the beginning. I think. God, the video I watched, I thought there was somebody sitting next to him the whole time.
Yeah, that seems it.
Massively publicly censoring conservatives in the
No,
last
this
2
is not
days,
it.
kicking them off,
Which one did you find?
Here, send it to you real quick.
people can even share their tweets.
I don't know if it's it though.
But Facebook's starting to censor more.
He's sitting at it. It's short. It's 5 minutes. He's sitting at his desk. Says establishment exposed. Censored by establishment exposed.
No, I think it has something to do
by
with.
Joe Rogan. Send it over Skype.
Oh, you did?
Movie star, TV star, you name it. From everything from Fear Factor to movies he does with all the big top comedians. And he said no, hands down. This
Which is really weird to me. I mean, I was really baffled by the fact that he would bring it up because this is the one right here. All right, so we'll listen to this one. Very interesting telling things here.
And so that's why, I mean, Joe Rogan wanted to bring that up. He knew all about it. We didn't even blame anybody. We just showed mainstream news articles. They couldn't stand that. And so they blocked it. And still it was the top podcast of all time, which again shows this hunger. But the point is this censorship's happening now. You have to spread the links. You have to point out it's being blocked. And you have to buy products, not just from me, but other people that are doing their own thing. I mean, Joe Rogan, I know he didn't tell me this. I learned from other sources, and I talked to him about it. He said, yeah, I'm not going to talk about it. He got threatened about 5 years ago. And he got threatened really serious, and him and his family, if he didn't stop getting into conspiracies, because they knew how popular he was. They had him do some TV show that made fun of it all the rest of it. Not say he was a sellout, but it was a process when that show was starting. He wasn't even aware of what was happening to him at the time. But I talked to folks that were there. And I'll just say this. Joe disagrees, he can say it, but he knows this is true. And so that's why I was on the show, and he was like finishing my sentences. Joe knows as much of this as I do. Joe, I'm not kissing his ass. He really knows. He's a smart guy. He's a tough guy. He's a father.
Yes, he's basically, you can watch that one.
Wow.
Yeah, really crazy, because then that does tell you that around that same time that somebody came in and told him, stop talking about conspiracy theories. I'll go ahead and make the assumption. I think they told him, stop talking about the moon landings. This is more evidence as to, I've always wondered, why does he have...
It really is.
Huh?
It really is, dude.
Yeah.
That's direct evidence.
And it's starting to come out, yeah. I mean, and then I wondered why he had Eddie Bravo on. Now it makes sense, because he can't say things he feels or knows, so he has Eddie Bravo on. And that's why... but yeah, Alex Jones to me is a disaster when it comes to space. But I also get why he...
Yeah, he has to play the game.
Thank you. Somebody just donated $20. Thank you, whoever that was. And it says, has anyone ever debunked? I didn't even know. That's the first time I've ever seen that happen. I don't even know how to look at that now. They said, did anybody ever debunk the Bedford level? And no, they didn't. They tried to explain it away, but the way that they went about that test was incorrect. That's why, and Robotham pointed it out in his book, but basically they weren't doing the test right. Maybe I can get into that when I talk in a little bit. But back to this, the fact that he's so confused about space, but this is where I know what they do. For one, I know a lot of people won't agree with this. I think that the Bart Seibel film itself was handed to him. I think that what they have to do is that sometimes they know there's going to be an alternative position, right? So they know people are going to think that we didn't go to the moon. So they had to create the other side being the Bart Seibel, funny thing that happened on the way to the moon. They show the spacecraft from behind, it's further into the ship, and they're showing the Earth out the window and with the little cutout. Okay, so what that does, though, is it reconfirms space. It reconfirms the whole idea of orbits and being in low Earth orbit and the Earth being a ball. all those things are true if the Cybral film is true. So what I think is those things are handed to people because not handed like here's some, but accidentally, quote unquote, they send it to him. They know he's this investigator. They know he's looking into the moon landings. What is going on here? Sorry.
Oh, no problem.
I just was getting a text and a bunch of texts. Oh, all right. Cool. Thanks, Bob. So you'll notice that every time, what was I even talking about? I lost it. Thanks, Bob. What was I talking about? I lost it. Oh yeah, just that I think that he's
good old Jones here.
Right,
Yeah,
I was talking about the
Rogan.
Bart Cybral. So Bart Cybral, he probably orders this footage and then they throw it in the box accidentally, and that's how they think. Same thing with Alex Jones. He thinks because he's gotten inside information from Buzz Aldrin that he knows the truth about space, that there's a secret space program and that we've been to the moon and there's things on Mars and all this nonsense. Well, of course he believes it because he thinks he has the inside track. And I don't, I understand that. I could see that happening to people. If I thought I stumbled into something and I've actually seen people say that they thought that I did, that I've been given information. I've never been given anything. Everything I've ever found is my own. I've had people say, oh, he must have been told about that Devon Island find. And that was honest to God. You can ask Bob. The second I found it, I called Bob like, dude, you have to see what I found. I don't know if I'm seeing
It's
the
called
right
deeper
thing.
research.
Right.
Deeper than what most people usually go with, honestly.
Well, and I think you should try and debunk yourself when you have something, because you also want to go and look at the alternative position. It's not really debunking because obviously you're going to find the debunk. It's just like the people when I came out and said that there's a scuba tank in space, is that everyone said, no, it's not a scuba tank. It says right here that it says that it's this gold foil. And I said, I understand that there's an answer for it. So I'm not saying that there would be no answer. People think like that if you, what did I see? That Gem Panda put out a video about the space helmet that was on the Gemini 4. And, saying like, what a joker these guys are. They didn't even go search. It's like, did he really think that people who are talking about the helmet turning, did he really think that we thought that there was no answer for that? Is that what people think? That we think we're finding things that NASA has never heard before, and so they don't have any answer for, and they're just going to wave the white towel out of their building and be like, we give up, you guys caught us. It is the ultimate deception that there ever was. It is the biggest fraud of all time. So NASA will do everything in its power forever and ever and ever to make sure it remains that way. So you will never get them to admit that they've lied or fooled everyone. It's just not going to happen. So you have to come to your own conclusions based off your own evidence. And I see swimmers in the live ISS walks or the spacewalks. I see it because I've been watching long enough to recognize it. We watched all these guys in the pool. It never made sense to me. Like, why are we not ever letting them in that pool without the scuba divers? Didn't make any sense to me. Then I started saying, wait a second, it's dark in space. Why wouldn't you turn off the lights in there when you're training? At least at some point, I understand at the
It's like
beginning.
a ballet.
It's like a
they're
space
performing.
ballet, absolutely. And that why are there scuba divers in their little emblems? It's like these things don't work with the mainstream view. Now, people are going to, ask Flat Earth Math, he'll tell you, go ask NASA. Go ask NASA why they. Then you'll get your answer. It's like, no shit, dude. I understand that. I know I can go look it up on the internet and find out why they. It doesn't mean it's the truth. If somebody's deceiving you, they're going to deceive you. That's the point of deception. So people, I just don't think get it. But I could see that happening. Talking about Alex Jones receipt. If I talked to some person and I thought I had an inside track or an inside, I'm getting inside information, I might run with that because I think it's legit. If I ordered some footage from NASA and then I got this tape and in there's this one thing with a scuba diver in it or something and I come out with it, I could see that happening. And that's what happened with Cybral. And that's why somebody like that can never even hear Flat Earth. To him, that's the stupidest thing in the world. He has video footage of them orbiting the Earth with their looking at the ball Earth. So to him, he'll never see that. But I think that was, I think it was done on purpose because it creates the other side of the argument, but it forces you to maintain your opinion of a ball in space.
Control that position completely.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, that's the Alex Jones video there. And then, oops, let me get over here. And I was trying to think of something else. Oh, yeah, we were going to do this one. So this video, here's the one I was talking about. Watch this guy at the end of the table. Oh, it's only 3 minutes. We'll watch the whole thing.
We have to get to, there was a
not very
very
loud.
hot, sizzling hot topic from over the weekend. It was Kyrie Irving sharing his thoughts on Earth. Take a listen.
I love you guys. No, the Earth
You
is
see?
flat. Oh, here we go. The Earth is flat.
I didn't see that part before. The guy on the right. Watch him say, "I love you, Kyrie." Watch. That was funny. Everybody else is laughing at him, and this guy on the right, because this guy on the right's the one that is a flat earther now. Watch him get all excited.
Kyrie Irving sharing his thoughts on Earth. Take a listen.
I love you guys.
No, the Earth is flat. Oh, here we go. The Earth is flat. There is no concrete information except for the information that they're giving us. They're particularly putting you in a direction of what to believe and what not to believe.
I don't know. I haven't done enough research, but I know it may be flat.
Is this like a long troll game? Are we being trolled?
I don't think we're being trolled because if you want to talk about anything that's scientific, two things must be met. Two underlining materials and variables are: is it reliable and is it valid? I just got off of a flight from Connecticut seeing my daughter, and this is a reliable. She's doing good.
And let me guess, the plane went straight. So
well, let me just say this, Mama. So I heard Kyrie talking about it, and I said, let me do my own scientific experiment. Let me take a look out this window.
Nope.
At 36,000 feet, I saw the skyline. And you know what I didn't see? A round skyline. It was flat from the left, and I went on the other side of the plane. It was flat on the right. And you know what? Kyrie done broke it down to y'all. And if y'all don't want to get on this train,
Now I realize why people say stick with sports.
you. Why? Because of you. What do you mean? That's why people say stick with sports.
Neil deGrasse Tyson.
He's been here before.
Your scientific research extended to you lifting up the window shade and going, okay.
Basic experiment.
Back down.
Was it coach or was it first class? No, it was actually coach. I had to pay for it. It wasn't on the company dime.
Oh, that makes sense.
That makes a difference, right?
It's flat, coach.
First class gets the round view. Coach gets the flat view.
30 years, we sent space shuttles up with cameras.
Are you sure?
Pointed them back at the Earth, and it was a ball.
Oh, really? This is the first time that our government or any agency has ever duped the public. That will be the first time? Oh, no, it won't. So how do you trust those camera shots?
Science.
By scientists who are imperfect.
So what's at the end of
don't touch me.
Have
you ever seen the round Earth with your own eyes, Mama Needle?
Oh, so you think those pictures are doctored?
Girl, I got Photoshop.
You think the satellite imagery is doctored?
I think that right now I have to trust two.
I have to say one thing, though. Something I see in the chat, which I think, and this is what we want to get into, a lot of people think that these celebrities, B.O.B., Kyrie, others, have been input to release this information. And
yeah, I've seen that. Even the non-conspiracy minded guys, like the guys at Earth Discussions, they're even kind of thinking that too.
So let me explain why I think that's crazy. If you're talking about any kind of group that would not want this information out, that the last thing you do is choose an NBA player from a 2-time championship team that will be going back, I'm sure this year, and have him come out and put in the ear of 100 million people or 50 million people the word flat earth. It's certainly crazy for people to think that. Also, you can tell when somebody has done enough research, and again, I'm just going to speak from personal opinion, but B.O.B. is 100% authentic. 100%. And it's funny because he always responds to me in text with the damn 100 emoji. 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, 100. Like I have to vary, it depends on what I say to him. I'll get either 100 or a couple hundreds. It's funny, my wife and I always joke, how many hundreds did you get back on that? I got 100, 100, 100, 100. So, nice. But he's so legit because he believes it. And he has to be careful because he says, he doesn't want to lose his little ticket to fame. But at the same time, he was willing to come out and speak out about it. Same thing with Kyrie Irving. These guys are legit.
Risking. Yeah. They're risking so much. It doesn't make any sense for somebody to come out and say that. I mean, I understand suspicions that might come around it, but it seems genuine. You can kind of discern it as well, especially by his, very, measured response when he was being interviewed by that hostile reporter.
Yeah, the guy was just with a mic in his face, just like, You do realize people are
He's
listening
like-
to everything you say, right? Yeah, and I see a lot of people have watched the Russian vids video that came out that said that, you know, this guy's Illuminati, or he's got, you know, does these hand signals. Well, you know, you need to really understand that it's not necessarily an indicator that they are part of the Illuminati. To me, I could care less what hand signals you do. I could care less what picture you take with your hand over your eye. None of that matters. What matters is your actions and your words. You know, has he ever come out and said kill babies, rape kids? You know, I don't think he's ever said anything like that. Then I'll have a problem with somebody. Until then, you know, who knows why they're doing the hand signals? I mean, that's the sign of a 3-point shot.
We have to point out, for, you know, just to be solid on it.
Always.
Kyrie has an awesome. It's a good looking tattoo on his, I think, his left arm, of what's called a Hamzra.
Right.
Okay, and that it's got a pyramid with an eye in it. So you got certain groups of people kind of triggered by that, because, you know, we do see these all over the place, and we know what the signs and symbols are. A lot of people in the community have, you know, researched it properly. So,
and at the surface
it's
level,
interesting.
yeah, it is interesting. But at the surface level, we have to all look at ourselves. And I don't know about you. I know you and I have had basically the same kind of path through life, going from being religious and then coming out of it and being spiritual, or actually going through the atheist period as well. Weren't you also an atheist for a little while, or no?
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So yeah, we've almost.
I
had
was
the-
there for quite a long time. I was an atheist for like 8 years.
Oh wow, yeah, longer than I.
Yeah, and then I was around 34 and started changing some ideas.
So now, is it out of the realm of possibilities that during your atheism that you saw the pyramid with the eye and thought it was something anti-religious and thought it was cool and maybe would have gotten a tattoo of that?
Well, yeah, because it neutralizes in your mind, neutralizes all the importance of the, you know, the religious symbols typically. So you could see some of them doing that. I think it's more that because it's a Kabbalistic thing. And this gets people worked up. They think that anyone who studies Kabbalah, Hermeticism, and even Gnosticism is part of their system. That's their religion, the mystery Babylon. You know, they always project on there, and they do operate like that quite a lot.
And if somebody has a tattoo like that, or has a religion like that, doesn't mean that they can't be a flat earther. Like, you know, which is what baffles me, is that it has nothing to do with him saying that he thinks the earth is flat. He just is saying that. This is something I saw the other day. I don't know if you've ever seen this. This is a $1/3 from 1776. Look at this image here. I don't know if you can see that. You've got a plane surface. You've got the sun inside of some sort of dome structure, like a firmament, and you've got mind your business. This is on the U.S. $1/3 from 1776. So, I mean, obviously, you know, we know that they worship the sun. That's everywhere. That's what basically heliocentrism is a veiled sun worship.
Copernicus called him the visible God in his book.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So, I mean, to me, it doesn't matter if Copernicus comes out and says the Earth is a flat, then I'm going to recognize that and go and talk about it. It doesn't matter who it is. It doesn't matter what they're, you know. And I've said it before. People have problems with the fact that I've read some of Aleister Crowley's work, and I think it taught me a lot. You know, I don't want to ever go and try and conjure up demons. I don't want to do any of that stuff. It doesn't interest me. But it interests me to read about somebody who says that they did, because I think you can learn a lot
the
from things like that.
metaphysics of it, like to try to understand it more.
Right. I mean, Tommaso Campanella, I've talked about him before. He was in jail for 27 years, wrote some books that, it's not some of his better ones came out of when he was in jail, like City of the Sun. But when he's talking about, he did not realize that there was a God until he summoned demons. That it took for him to realize, well, now I know that God exists. He could never find God. He could never find the creator in his searching, but he was able to find the alternative, the alternate.
Oh, wow.
But from that said, that's when he realized that we have every power, and that's kind of my belief too, that you have every power over every demon that there is. But if you use them for your benefit, then, you know, good luck to you in the future. You know, I don't know what your punishment for that would be, but I certainly don't think you're going to be rewarded for it.
Manly P. Hall said the black magician they make a deal with the entity and to serve them after their life. So if you look into Manly P. Hall's explanation of ceremonial magic, when it comes to the black, that's the answer that he gives concerning it. So they try to extend their lives through whatever means necessary. Maybe like 6 new hearts, like we hear Rothschild have.
Right.
Because they have to serve the demon after the fact. And that's what Manly P. Hall says in a book that I just was looking at about a week ago.
That's absolutely, I believe that, because you know what, it even makes more sense. So they have to serve him after, but do they get to like reincarnate and serve him?
No, he didn't go into that any further. He was just talking about the contracts that you make when you do light magic and then dark magic and whatnot.
Well, and that's and I think that there is that, and I know B.O.B. has talked before about having to do certain things to maintain your status in the industry. So for him, he calls it, I'm gonna say, what do they call it? Earmuffs, people? But you have to suck dick in order to maintain your position in the rap game. That basically what they do is they let you grow big, they let you make that money, then you make your first album or something. Now you've got $4, $5, $6, $7 million bucks. Well, what happens? You got all these friends, these family members that all want things, buy cars, buy a house. So now you've racked up some bills because you know you're a star now. You're going to make another CD in another 2 years. You're going to make another couple million. But then they put you in that limo with a guy, whoever this guy is, I don't know, who says, take care of me. And when you have a choice, you can say no, but they say if you say no, you're done. That'll be the last time you make an album. B.O.B. said that he chose that he would be able to self-fund and do things himself because he was frugal. So he has his own label. Isn't with one of the big names. He doesn't get promoted anymore. He's never going to be in the top rappers because they're in the industry, because that's not who gets promoted. It's the people who do go through with the acts. So it's the same thing though. It's the selling of your soul to maintain your status on earth. And I totally believe in it. I totally think that you can, if you wanted to, I'm assuming, probably get some help from outside sources. I don't know. I won't ever try. So I can't tell you that's the truth or not, because I've never tried. So nobody goes saying Jeran says this is true, because I don't know it's true. I'm just saying wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, Manly P. Hall is really interesting, but these things are kind of shunned. With a Christian paradigm, you find that they have a particular story of revelation that has to kind of come along for them to. So when they see all of the things going wrong, typically, like the more like Zionist, Zionist Christians and Zionists, they typically want Israel to be established because it has to be destroyed or something like that before Jesus can come back. So you have all these and God bless their beliefs and whatnot, but they kind of shield themselves off to like almost a limit, and they'll get afraid of signs and symbols, where they say that's a cult, it's evil. But when you look at Hermeticism and when you look at the stuff that Manly P. Hall is also saying, this is exactly the religion that they're following.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that we have to recognize, because it's Sun Tzu here. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to know what these people believe. So we really shouldn't. Like, I don't think that, because if you look at the Hamzra, have you shown that yet?
No, let me bring that up. How do you spell it?
Oh, actually putting Kyrie Irving's tattoo.
Okay.
Yeah, this is something that I can see. Well, this Russian Viz did trip on this. This is why I'm bringing it up.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I get it. I get why people, because the word occult, for some reason in Christianity, means like evil, or bad or wrong, and they have like a cover word for it. That anything from playing Dungeons and Dragons to worshiping Satan, that's a cult. So you know what I mean, like anything in between. And I was raised that way, and you only hear it that way.
And
but
that's
occult just means hidden.
Right. That's kind of the problem, though, that you and I both grew up the same. And just imagine, I know we have some Christians listening and some non, but if you put yourself in the shoes of a Christian, you're taught and told that anything coming from outside of the Bible is a trick from the devil. So imagine where you've now put yourself. And I know this to be the fact that I had to pray. My wife and I had to pray to God to give us 1 year to look outside of religion. That's what it ultimately took us to feel okay with looking outside of it. Now, we told God in that prayer, we were like, if you're the truth, we'll come back to you. We just feel like it's our life, and we shouldn't be held back by our parents' beliefs, which is how we felt. We both grew up in our families and had our religious beliefs given to us. We weren't ever given the opportunity, and we just kept looking at it like, man, this doesn't seem right, that we're not allowed to choose our belief, that we feel like we should be able to, it's my life, and if I'm going to face God in my final day, I'm going to feel like I believed what I believed because it was my true belief. And I felt like when we were in, she was Christian, I was Catholic, but I felt like if I face God in the final day and it's not what I thought, I'm gonna hate myself because I never gave myself a chance. I said, let me look into it. So we prayed for that year, and it ultimately led us to atheism. And that makes sense because you go looking to disprove yourself, basically. I found several reasons to not believe what I was taught, and then became an atheist. Now, thank goodness for me, I said, well, I want to learn everything about science now because I want to be able to debate Christians, tell them how wrong they've been. And in doing that, that's when I found science was a religion as well. And in that search is where you find the truth that basically is that the Creator is something that cannot be explained, has never been explained. Nobody has ever even come close. I think that the Creator's knowledge and understanding and intelligence is more than every human that's ever lived combined. And so you can't even start to comprehend what that entails. I mean, think of the earth, think of the way it works. Look at this place and understand that you would not have a clue how you would even start a system like the earth. And yet somebody built it. Somebody, created it. And that to me was the biggest clue. And for the first time, I felt secure in my belief about who I saw as the Creator. For the first time, I said, now I can stand in front of the Creator on my final day and explain my belief and show why I feel that way. And with Christianity, when you've got that block of anything coming from outside is of the devil, I feel bad for Christians who have not given themselves the opportunity to question that because of that tenet. That's not a good thing to say. That's a sign of a cult. That's a sign of a indoctrination or that it's not the way that you would want. If something's the truth, would you tell people that? Would you say anything coming from outside this is from the devil? Well, now you've done it, because I think people, if it was the truth, people would come to it. And that's my issue with it. So when I do see these the Christian side, I get upset because I think that when you look at the Bible, it sounds like a plan for an elite group of Satanists to run ruckshop all over the earth, to do wicked things, to cause damage, to conjure up wars, to do all these things, and while the other group sits around and thinks that the meek will inherit the earth. They sit around and they think that the government is put there by God. They think that Jesus is coming back to save them. And I dare any Christian to tell me how they think that's how the Creator would want it done. To me, and
now,
again, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, Jeran.
Shoot.
Well, I was just going to say the problem that I've discovered is the word dogma. Like, I can't stand dogma on any level. And I even, because let's switch it back real quick to the globe.
Okay.
I've realized that people have no idea why they believe they're on a globe when you first get to them. They have a belief system, though, that it's there in all its entirety through every science fiction movie they've seen, sci-fi movie they've seen. But they have they have no idea what they're basically going to answer with, because they have nothing. Typically, they have to go and research. This hits people really, really hard.
Mhm.
I've noticed.
Yeah, and that's.
But with the Christians, just quickly, I love their worldview. I was raised in it, and I had actually a pretty good upbringing with it. And so the worldview, I can appreciate that it's rich. You know, especially when you got the Nephilim story and the there were giants in those days. These references, the whole book of Enoch and what it says about cosmology, the whole package is absolutely valuable. And there's a lot that I even find in the Bible that's quite interesting. Usually in Proverbs.
I think there's so much truth in it, because it was written by people who were trying to speak truth. I think that they just misrepresented the Creator. But I definitely agree with you. I mean, I was raised Catholic, and I am a better person because of it. Now, granted, Catholicism, or at the highest level, is definitely corrupt. But on these low levels at these churches, my mom was in charge of liturgy and music. My mom is one of the best people I think I'll ever know. Obviously, she cares about others. She doesn't push her religion on anybody. I think I've told this story before, but she just recently retired, and I said, "So what are you going to do? Just sit around and do nothing the whole time?" She goes, "Oh no, I got a lot to do. There's so much stuff I haven't done in my life that I need to do." I'm like what? And she says, "Well, I need to visit a lot of people in prison." Like, why would you do that? She's like, "Well, because that's what Jesus said, that you need to visit people in prison. And those are things I haven't done yet." And it hits me like there's nobody else who would ever think that when they retire that they need to go and visit people in prison. But this is what the religion has brought to her, and it's been enriching for her. And she totally believes that Jesus rose from the dead on the third day, and that him rising has given her her ticket to eternal life. She feels she will see my grandparents, her parents, when she dies. She can't wait for that day. And you know what? That I'm a better person. I was raised in a really great upbringing. I knew a lot of really great families. I worked in the rectory of the church, and overall, completely positive experience of the whole thing. And I totally agree with you that I love their worldview. If it were, I wish it were the truth. I really do. In fact, when I tried to prove the Bible to myself, because I wanted it to be true, I thought life would make more sense. I said, if this is true, then it makes sense to me that at least we have a plan. We have like a path to take to get home. And when I tried to prove the Bible, I mean, all it takes is basically one line, and that is Satan masquerades as an angel of light. Once I read that, I said, hold on a second. Now, if Satan masquerades as an angel of light, then how do you know who wrote the Bible wasn't being inspired by Satan? And, that's something that I'm not sure any Christian can answer, because other than to say I must be telling a lie, or I must be out of my mind because I'm saying something coming from outside the Bible, therefore I'm from the devil. That's what they would have to say. Because really, if you think about that, it should cause a big problem. That if the Bible is true, and the Bible tells you that Satan masquerades as an angel of light, then Satan could have been the inspiration to some of the things in the Bible that say, like, God is the one who put your government in place. Christians, if you think God put George Bush in office and caused him to allow 9/11 to happen, or to orchestrate the fraud that is, if you think the bombing of people in Syria and the taking over of lands that has gone on for hundreds of years in this country, if you think that's of God, that's on you. But that's something the book says. The book says that that God puts those government in place, and if you buck the trend, if you go against your government, you're going against God. That's what it says. And it says in Revelation, the last verse almost, let the wicked be wicked, and let the evil do evil, and wait, because I come quickly, Jesus Christ, whatever. But I have a problem with that. I do not think the creator of all this said, let the wicked do wicked, let the evil be evil. Because if you did, this is what you get. This is what we get. We got people who are raping children. We got people who are eating babies. This is going on in this world. And that sounds to me, when you look at the whole picture, it should make sense to you why you've got people who are good people, like Christians, who are not really that interested in going and stopping all this from happening because they feel like Jesus is going to come back. They feel like the Bible says, let the wicked be wicked. To me, it just seems like, I've said this before, but if it was 2 generations after Jesus, then I would be in the same team. I would say, you're right, let's wait for Jesus. Let's do what the Bible says. The meek will inherit the earth. We're going to get rewarded for, the Bible says you have to be, it's harder for a camel to get through an eye of a needle, or it's easier than to get into heaven if you're rich. Doesn't that,
rich man.
Doesn't that cause look at the world. Everybody who's rich is wicked and evil, and everybody who's poor is good and humble. So
the path is narrow.
Right. But these are things that if you look at the whole picture, it starts to make sense if you take the Bible and realize it's been used as a tool. That's all that I'm saying, is that it then creates a problem because,
and
again...
I want to just quickly say, a lot of people think that this is, talking against something. What I like to say that is we're pointing out the dogmatic aspect of it, the historicity of it, the benefits, the worldview, and I'm personally trying to be pretty objective about both sides because I'm still kind of entertaining a lot of different ideas. And there is an interesting paradigm, but this part of it, I've had the same thought before, that it's perfect for a more submissive populace if we're believed, like to its literal sense, right? That we see the more the biblical literalists, I would say.
Yeah, and I've told people before, I think people can believe whatever they want. If you want to believe in Christianity, and this is like hard to say and people not think I'm just saying it. I'm honestly saying that you have every right to believe whatever you want. I have my own beliefs. My mom fully believes in Christianity. I don't pester her. I don't say things to her. I don't try and change her mind. It's great for her. She needs that savior. I don't. It's that simple. And you know what? It's my relationship with the Creator. It's not something you need to worry about. Look at the comments in this video after, or look at the comments on my last video, and you'll see that that huge group of people that just I had so many people unsub me, unsubbed. Didn't know you didn't have a clue about the Bible. Didn't know you didn't know what you're talking about when it comes to Christianity. That's fine. And I thank God I've never cared about how many subs I have or anything like that. I don't care. I'm just speaking my mind, and if you don't agree, that's great. That's the great thing about life. Imagine if we all agreed. People don't even think that. Like, if we all agreed on everything, we wouldn't even do anything. You'd be useless. You would just all sit around like, what do you want to have for dinner? Oh, yeah, okay. You want to have pot? Me too. What do you want to drink? Lemonade? Okay. There wouldn't be anything else. Life would suck. It's great that we have different opinions. It's great that we have different ideas and can come at things from different angles. I'm just trying to tell people why I feel the way I do, so that...
You receive quite a backlash. I mean, I understand that. And I honestly, from this third,
Bob just texted me, you're pissing off Christians again. Sorry, Bob.
Yeah, I think so.
And it's funny because I don't mean that.
I see the position you're taking, though, and honestly, I don't find it too much of an aggressive thing. If you can draw back and understand that, I mean, you're going down and questioning, you have so many good questions for it that you're pursuing it and you want to know, and you've been and I know the response you've been getting is kind of harsh, I suppose.
Well, it is, and I understand. I kind of expected. Obviously, I expected it. I just said that, but I do think that if I didn't have an answer for myself, then you have a problem. But I do have an answer for myself, and that I try and get across, because I just want people to understand that I do have a reason for my beliefs. And people will try and say, well, you don't understand the Bible, you're taking it out of context. That's great. You can say I'm taking whatever you want out of context. I'm saying that there are things in there that lead me to believe it's a deception. That doesn't mean I believe Jesus lived. A lot of people don't even believe that. A lot of people say, who aren't Christians, say Jesus is a joke. He's just he's the Son of God, meaning the S-O-N, not the S-U-N. I understand all that talk. I do think there was a human being here named Jesus who tried to lead people on a different path. I think it was very important to the growth of humanity. I'm somebody who sees the Bible as a history of humanity. that shows what they went through, that shows that at first they were worshiping golden calves, and then Moses had to go up to the mountain and get the rules of God. I don't think he spoke to God up there. I don't think that any God came down and wrote on a tablet, but I do think that it's possible that that is something that Moses said that happened. So that, because you had to get people in this thing, you know, that's how humanity may have needed to been corralled. Well, then all of a sudden, after you have the 10 Commandments and people follow those for a while, and then they start going off on they're losing their minds again, well, then people needed a God they could touch. That it wasn't enough anymore that you're talking about this God on the mountaintop that comes in a cloud of smoke. People didn't really grasp that anymore. So they brought, here comes Jesus, and then he was, you know, looked at as God. Oh, okay, we're going to go down this path. And it just seems like it tells a story, to me at least. And, you know, again, I'm not saying that people who are Christians are even wrong. I'm not saying that. I'm just trying to voice my opinion. Again, I've said this before. It takes, if you look back 2,000 years, that's 80 grandparents. So Jesus said in the Bible that he would be back, you know, within a generation. My personal belief is when he said that and then he rises from the dead, isn't that him coming back? So didn't he already have his second coming? I guess we're waiting for his third coming. But if you look at the whole story and everything that's involved in the entire thing, it looks to me to be an easy way to deceive people. Maybe the Bible was originally all true and they added some things in there. I don't know. All I know is that it certainly appears to me that you can't say, and I love the Bible because I do think it's full of truth. I think it's a flat earth book, which it should be, right?
Well, also remember 1 Thessalonians 5:20-21.
Tell me.
Test all things. Hold fast to what is true.
Good.
Like it needs to be investigated on a deep level and understood and explored. And I know you've done that, like, to a large extent.
And that's what makes me not scared for Christians, but I hope that they get that, because when you're told by your pastor that everything coming from outside the Bible is from the devil, then you have closed yourself off to anything coming from outside the Bible. And, you know, like I said, 80 generations, that's 80 grandparents of mine waited for Jesus to return to save them, and he never came. And so if you think it's smart to be number 81 who was waiting for Jesus, and if you asked a majority of Christians, what percentage do you think of Christians think Jesus will come back in their life is?
Well,
what would you guess? That's just a guess. I'm just wondering what you think that number is.
You mean the total population?
Sure. If we took every Christian, so let's say that's, I don't know, 2 billion, whatever they say it is, a billion, and you were to poll them as to what percentage of them think Jesus is coming back in their lifetime, what would you say?
Oh, goodness, Protestant Christians. Gosh. I know some religions don't focus on it, but there's a lot that do. Probably about 70-80% of it.
I was going to say...
Actually, maybe a little bit more.
Yeah, I was going to say 90.
Yeah.
And so I think that you need to look at that as a rational
and objectively.
Objectively.
Yes, go on.
Yeah, you just really need to look at it and just think that, okay, it's been, and I understand it looks like the end times, believe me, that it certainly does. But that's what I'm saying, is that if somebody is using the book as a tool, that basically you could just carry that book in the year 400, 600, 800, 1200, 1400. You carry that book along and you keep everything always is the end times. Of course, there's always wars and rumors of wars. There's always kingdom against kingdom. There's always famines and strife. And then what does Jesus say? That those things must happen, that the wars must happen before he comes back. So nobody ever steps up and thinks it's a big deal when there's a war and tries to stop it. In fact, I think Christians kind of want World War III to come. I'm just saying that's my opinion. I can't speak on behalf of any Christians.
There's a very small percentage of those who are really big into conspiracy theories. I've seen that attitude before, but not too much explicit. And, you know, when I was a Seventh-day Adventist, that was our main focus. That's what the word Adventist means. It means he's coming back. And we went to Sabbath on Saturday, but we were still Christians. But anyways, we always studied Revelations. I knew about the New World Order in 1993 from my you know what I mean?
Wow.
Like the people around me on their study sessions. they were focused on this, and you see it with the Alex Jones and crowd and that surrounds. There's kind of a mythos that is created about it, and it's something to be studied. It's something to be appreciated. It's something to be valued. It's something to discern and test all things. I just want to say that it's okay to think outside of that box and look at it from outside.
And I think that's hard for them to see, because they might feel that if they did look, they might stray, and then they're going to look back and say, "Oh, that's because, I went against the whole." The good thing is, and I'm just speaking on my own behalf, that if in my final day I find out that the God of the Bible and the whole story and the Bible is 100% true, if I find that out, I will be able to accept that much more, because I decided for myself, even though I was told if you get anything from outside the Bible is from Satan, I'm not going to look back and say I should have trusted those people, because I'm going to say I went with my own beliefs, and that is acceptable to me. That's something I can live with, no matter. Or I guess I can die with. I can. That's something that I'm okay with. That I will be able to explain my thoughts, my beliefs. I would have said to the Creator and say, you know what, I didn't want to be number 81. I wasn't going to be number 81. I wasn't going to sit around and do the same thing 80 grandparents had done and wait for Jesus to come back, because it obviously wasn't coming to fruition in their time. And I just looked at it and said, it's always the end times. You've made it so that it's always the end times. You've made it so that wars must happen before he comes back. And now the world looks to me to be the result of exactly what's going on there. That if it was anything different.
Yeah.
I mean, and we talked about this last night when I asked you if you've seen a big change since you grew up. I mean, Cathexis and I are the same age, and we both look back at our upbringing and go back to when we were 10, 12 years old. What a different world we live in. And if you asked what has happened, it's been a breakdown of society by the people at the top, by government agencies, pushing these war things more. We're now finding out that things we were taught in school are not the truth, not by accident, but they were put in textbooks. So
things are unraveling.
Right. And it certainly looks like, so I guess people can say, oh, Jeran, isn't that proof to you that it's the end times? Well, my problem is in the year 900, I'm sure people felt the same way. In the year 1500, people felt the same way, because what you had the entire.
It's almost like a playbook for society.
Absolutely.
It's like it's something they know. Remember that book? What is it? Book of Eli, the movie actually. Book of Eli.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that one, where the whole premise was this, that he wanted that Bible because it grew societies in a way that it would benefit from.
Right.
So it's
if you're wicked and evil
to it. But still, the most important thing is not for anybody to discredit or discount. Like, I love the worldviews, absolutely. I
and it's
really
better
do.
than, it's better than anything else.
I have a ton of good Christian friends too, that I can. I love the Nephilim story, the Enoch. I've been, trying to read that, and there's this tremendous amount of richness in all cultures. Like, you look at the Vedics, you look at, what the occult ideas said, or, to find out what they're using, etc. So you have to kind of go down the line and analyze as much as you possibly can about what the esoteric, the metaphysical, not only the curvature and all that, you're seeking, like when you found that clip from Orwell with the third chapter where he says a dual system of astronomy. Mm-hmm. You not think our mathematicians are up for the task? I mean, you got to look in all corners for this kind of stuff, and it exists.
Yep. And that's the hardest thing for me, is that it certainly looks to be a playbook. I think you worded it perfectly, that it looks to be a way to create a society that is complacent, that doesn't buck the trend, doesn't go against mainstream, allows the government to operate their lives, make sure that they pay their taxes. I mean, the Bible says, pay to Caesar what is Caesar's, pay to God what is God's. Yet,
and these are classic examples of what I've been questioning myself. Mm-hmm. Like I said, I've got very good friends with some wonderful Christian people, similar to Rob Skiba even. Like, there's sincerity and a goodness to him that you can communicate all of these different ideas with. I mean, I've heard your conversations with him. It's fantastic.
And that's some of the better conversations I've ever had with anybody. And it's because and I'm not even trying to convert him, because I'm not trying to convert anybody. When I say these things I'm saying, I'm not trying to get people to go against it. What I'm trying to get is an acceptance of my view of the story. And, I'll accept yours as long as it doesn't infringe on you coming at me and saying the things that, go look at my last video and go through the comments and you'll see what I'm talking about. That it's just filled with Christians who, and here's my biggest problem, is that I have this hate and frustration for science because it's become dogmatic. Like you said, it's become about the organization of science. Nobody cares anymore about the intricate details of it. And I feel that Christianity is a lot the same. That it's just all you have to do is say that you find Jesus as your personal savior, and you get to walk around and say, I found Jesus, I found Jesus. And I know so many people, and I know, I'm not basing this off these few and say, okay, that means the whole group of them. But what I'm saying is it allows people to become hypocrites. It allows people to become, on one side, they say, I found Jesus, Jesus is my savior. And everybody goes, okay, just like priests who rape kids. That it's been used as a mask to allow evil, and that to me does not spell truth. I mean, look at the doctrine of discovery. That's what I brought up here. Is look at what they were given, and these are the sailors of, the ancient explorers, not ancient, 1400s, 1500s, 1600s. That the papal bull of the doctrine of discovery was here. This is what we're using, and it said, "I am the Pope. I have every right." Given to me by God. I am Jesus' spokesman on earth, or I am Jesus on earth, whatever they believe. And that we're going to go over to these new countries, and anybody who does not believe what we believe, if they don't accept Jesus as their personal savior, they're to be outlawed, they're to be outskirted, they're to be put out to pasture, given one more chance, and if they don't, then we're going to kill them. And that was their way of getting across Christianity. And I don't mean Christians, sorry, I mean Catholics, I understand that. That was a Catholic doctrine, but what the world has become is a result of that. And when you look at it, it shouldn't surprise anybody. I've had people tell me, well, how can you think Christianity is not true? Look at how big it is. Look at how much Jesus' name is spoken all around the earth. Yeah, but when you had a doctrine of discovery that said, if you don't believe in this, we're going to kill you, then you should understand why it's as big as it is. That's absolutely the reason right there. I mean, it's right in front of you that people felt like, well, they didn't feel like they had to believe it. So it shouldn't be a surprise that my grandparents, great-great-great-great-grandparents all believed it, because they would have had to, or else they would have been killed, or they would have had to join the Illuminati and go underground, or something like that. I'm trying to find these actual documents I can show you. Oh, that looks a little too hard to read.
And I would like to say, I mean, I agree. The institutions, this is why I say I'm 100%. I believe in a creator 100%.
Mm-hmm.
But the way that I see it is the institutions are what's corrupt. It's your institutions of man are always capable of that. So religion.
Okay, so here's my question, because
the actual technical problem that I see with that.
This is
with
something
the whole situation.
This is something so evident to me, and I don't know if other people understand it. If you have the Catholics, who were the ones who had Peter, the first pope, who Jesus basically gave the keys to. Okay, so you've got this organization of Catholics who take over from the beginning. Now, they're the ones who put the books into the Bible. They're the ones in 325 that decided what went in, what went out, rewrote the New Testament, or wrote the New Testament, got all the books together. Here comes the thing. Okay, so now understand that Catholics don't believe that the Bible is the Word of God. Okay, the reason they don't believe that is because they wrote it. So if you write it and you didn't get it from God, then you would say this isn't the Word of God. So look at Catholics. They don't believe in the Bible. They believe that the Bible is inspired, but that the Pope makes the ultimate decisions, and if they want to change something, they can change it. So then you've got Christianity that is a separate group that doesn't like Catholics for whatever reason. The Pope's corrupt, that all these things are corrupt about it, but they take the book that Catholics wrote as the truth. There's a problem there. That if you don't like Catholics, then you must not agree with the book that they wrote in 325, the book that they put together. And I understand Old Testament. You can take Old Testament and
yeah, you had the Hebrew of the Old Testament, but
right.
the New Testament was written in Greek.
Right.
and they had to, sew the two together. But you're right; I think it was being done. I was looking about Council of Nicaea the other day.
Correct. Yeah, 325.
Trying to learn about it. Yeah, I mean, you got to take that larger picture and look at these things.
And I mean, the Catholics changed the last book of the Old Testament. So it's not a matter of like, oh, they can't touch it or they can't change the words. It's been translated, it's been added to and subtracted from. But they're the ones who chose the last book of the Bible because, and I can't remember if it was originally, what is it now? Do you know the last book of the Old Testament? Is it Maccabees?
Oh goodness, you're on the spot.
No, I don't. Yeah,
no, off the top of my head.
So whatever book was there talked about God just being pissed off. God was like, "I'm done with you people. You're done. I'm gonna, squash you, and the sun is coming, and it's gonna burn you all." And they changed it so that the last book talks about basically a savior going to come, and they changed it. That's a known thing. It's not. I'm not making that up. That's a known thing. And so when you see things like that, you're like, okay, it looks to me like the Catholics were trying to tell a story. That the Catholics were trying, and then you look at the history of Catholicism, and that's what they've been doing. They've been a land grab. They're the number one landowner by far in the world. I mean, you could not calculate their value. The Catholic Church.
Really?
The Catholic Church destroys the value of money completely. If you just sold the paintings that they have in their basement for the value that people put a value on them, that it would be more than all the money in the world. They can't. There is no. They are the entire value. And if you look at the world, what do? They all bow down to the Pope. And you have documents like this, the papal bull that basically says we're going to take over. We are the ones in charge, and you've got every country that simply follows along and does whatever they say. And I don't think that spells a very trustworthy group of people. I mean, you just need to look back at some of these books that were written even recently about Jesuits who had taken over the office of the Pope, that this black group of Jesuits, and then you look and you realize that we look at it as like science versus the church in the 1600s, right? That's how we got all this cosmology. But actually, the original scientists that came up with all this cosmology were from the church. That's Copernicus was a religious, Galileo was religious, all these guys.
Yeah, they were Catholics, but they were also alchemists and hermeticists too. They were associated with the Catholic Church.
Yeah, I think science doesn't like to admit that, but I know Newton, they found some big old crate of paperwork from Newton, and they auctioned it off, and it went really high because all these science people were dying to see what else he wrote, and it finally sold. And when they opened it up, it was filled with nothing but Bible prophecy, trying to calculate the end of times, and all about how to do alchemy, but nothing about anything scientific as far as gravity and that kind of thing.
No, you didn't have the scientific method until early 1600s with Francis Bacon, and that's a huge story about him. You should take a look at some of his accomplishments. Some people think that he's Shakespeare.
Yeah, I think
Shakespeare made the Globe Theater.
Right, and said all the world's a stage.
Yes, sir.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's interesting when you look at these guys and look at what they were involved with, especially Newton, but Copernicus too. He was a sun worshiper. He called it the visible sun. The visible God. He called the sun that, and he read Hermes Trismegistus' work, and you can see a little blessing to Hermes in his book with Hermes on the face of the sun. On the revolution of the spheres.
So I was going to read this. Go ahead.
So what I'm saying is, heliocentricity is, it's almost like mathematically prescribed sun worship, if I may say.
It is. It absolutely is. And imagine how upset they were when they realized, and this is what cosmology is it's been a correction the entire time, meaning that, Copernicus said it was 3 million miles, which doesn't even make any sense. I don't even believe Copernicus wrote that book because he was a mathematician, and no mathematician would ever have said that the sun was 3 million miles away because it doesn't work in their system. So I think that was just science likes to tell a story of progress, like, oh, we didn't know everything at first and then we slowly learned everything. But really what it was is they were writing books about what they wanted it to be, and then somebody would come along with a disproof and they would have to correct it. Well, they always wanted the sun in the center. They want the sun, the motionless center, everything orbits around the sun. The Earth isn't important. But then they realized when people got smart and said, hold on a second, if you've got all these rules of gravitational orbits and things, well, then the sun has to be in orbit of something also. And then you're right. Okay, that goes around the galaxy. Okay, and the galaxy goes around the greatest. These things are all added after, but they didn't want that.
Yeah, it's all ad hoc.
All ad hoc.
And the thing is when it comes to cosmology and astronomy, they're just so stories.
Absolutely.
You have just an observation of something that it rotates over our heads in 24 hours. You know where all of them are going to be. Everybody's been studying it for thousands of years. We've got great data on stuff. But you're then asserting that, no, it's this larger system, and we're the third rock from the sun. and you see, and we go by at 66,600 miles per hour around the sun. And we're tilted for some reason because that needed to be added. But don't worry about that.
Yeah.
It's just, it's ad hoc. When you look at the historicity of it, like seriously.
Yeah, that's the truth. And I'm not saying that means that it's flat, but it certainly leads you to look at, what did they tell us was stupid? Why were they trying to force one thing and not the other? But look at
geocentricity. If somebody doesn't want to go I want to make this clear. If somebody wants to go so far as to just look at geocentricity, not, if you've just heard this idea, I think people need to kind of recommend like the principle or something like that on occasion, because it gets people thinking in the way that I think is necessary for this to kind of be seen. You've got to, the cognitive dissonance guys it's going to rattle them for a good 6 months to a year probably. We've seen that with the trolls. And then they'll come to it and be like, oh, damn, or maybe they're right. And they're back in it. Once this idea comes into your head, there's no way that you can't think about it. You can't not think about it in the future.
It's funny that you said that, because one of my recent articles was, if you don't believe that the Earth is flat, and I said, if you believe in the heliocentric model, that's good. It says ass. Nice typing, Jeran. That's good. If you believe in the heliocentric model as we were taught, then you believe in a religion, not science. Below is a paper that was accepted for publication. But my whole point here is if you don't believe in the flat Earth, you better be a geocentrist. If you're not a geocentrist, then you don't look at evidence, and you don't look at, you've never researched it. You cannot be a heliocentrist with the amount of data out there regarding geocentrism, the amount of data out there regarding the fact of why they chose one or the other. There's not a difference between the two that can be pulled away from, other than the fact that science doesn't allow purpose. And if science doesn't allow purpose, then you can't be the center of the universe, because that implies purpose. End of story. So it means they made a decision for you, went off in a tangent of a world that now we got dark energy and dark matter and all these craziness. It's all because science can't allow the Earth to be at the center. However, every observation, and I mean every single observation, fits the geocentric model. And then guess what? You don't need dark matter anymore. You don't need dark energy anymore. All those things have been added because of the system that they put into place. And they can't go back. They know that. It's just like gravity. Even though gravity doesn't act right in the great galaxies out there, they have to keep it because it describes the sphere. And if you were to erase gravity, then people would say, well, why are we a sphere? They would realize we're not. And then from there, if we're not a sphere, if we're just a plane of existence, all of a sudden, what does that bring back into play? Purpose. So that's the whole story.
Yeah. The one question people deeply ask as they're walking down the street to work and shit, what's the purpose? And that's why I really like looking into these topics, because things like geocentricity, things like, if somebody can be positively triggered by the word flat Earth, good. Maybe they'll go out and learn immediately. But I think that people need to get familiar that what we're talking about is alternative cosmology. Mm-hmm. We're trying to piece this together. We're doing the best research we can into some pretty deep esoteric metaphysical things on one side, and then you've got the math aspect of it, and we're all just cutting into it and finding a lot of discrepancies, a lot of points in time where a deception probably happened, and we can point it out, even down to that level.
And it shouldn't be surprising to people either that look at heliocentrism. Look at how long they've had to use the very best scientists, the very best mathematicians to create a system that at least works on the surface. Now, I feel stupid because I was telling everybody for 2 years saying how perfect mathematically the heliocentric system
Oh,
worked.
yeah.
I kept saying mathematically it works. Mathematically, well, when I found out that they can't do a three body problem, that it's never been solved, I just was like, you got to be kidding me. I mean, it's not even mathematically feasible. And then I go back and I look at when Antonio Subirats was doing a video where he ended up getting in a conversation with Red's Rhetoric. And there was a point in time where he couldn't get Red's Rhetoric. He was asking him, does the sun move? And he kept saying, in reference to what? And this is the problem. This is the ultimate paradigm here, is if Subirats is asking him, does the sun move? Should be a simple question, right? And we all pretty much, if you understand the globe model, understand that answer. That yes, the sun moves. It has to move around the galaxy. We know all that. And then he kept, but Red's Rhetoric would not answer that question. The reason why is because you have to take separate sections and just talk about that. And if you think that that's the truth of where you live, if you think that we live in a place where, in order to describe what's going on between the Earth and the Moon and the Sun, that you have to only take two of them and then pretend that they are at rest, it's craziness. That's what they believe. That's why Red's Rhetoric couldn't say that the sun moves, because if the sun moves, then you lose everything else. So he had to say in reference to what? Because if you say, well, in reference to the Earth, no, it does not move, but it does in reference to the great attractor. How does that work? What do you mean? It moves in one case and not the other? Well, yeah, because otherwise their system doesn't work. You have to take, I mean, it would be impossible to send a spacecraft to Jupiter, to send a spacecraft to Saturn in a real world situation. Impossible, because the item would be changing constantly, meaning its gravitational attraction to one body or the other would have to be calculated for every second in a split second for the current setup of the universe at that time, or the galaxy or the solar system. And that's impossible. They can't do it. There's not even a mathematical way to do that, because you'd never know. It's an unknown at every moment. So
yeah, it's relativity curse too.
Relativity curse, yep. And that's how they have to, if you want to talk about a spacecraft between the Earth and Mars, then you can figure that out. That they can figure out mathematically. But you can't include anything else. So you have to pretend the moon doesn't exist. And that's what they actually say. If you look it up, how do you do the mathematical? How would they ever figure out how to send something to Jupiter? They'll tell you, when you take a two-body problem, that any other bodies in the picture can be zeroed out. And that's what they have to say, because otherwise they would create a problem that can't be solved. But they just say, well, no, if there's an Earth to Jupiter system that you're sending this spacecraft there, that you only need those two bodies because they're the gravitational heavyweights, meaning everything else becomes inconsequential, even though we all know that doesn't make any sense. That what about when it passes Mars? Mars is not going to gravitationally attract or have any influence on, nope, not, because you can't do a three-body problem in cosmology. And that to me made me, I was like, man, it's not even mathematical.
It blew my mind to realize that.
Me too.
It really did.
It was huge.
And and then also look at the dark matter, dark energy quotient. 97% of what's up there. And in total, the dark energy being lower, 20 something, and then, the dark matter being more, but 97% of the equation as a placeholder.
Yep.
It's just, that's all dark matter, dark energy is. And we speak of it as if it's some mysterious substance that we're going to find one day. No,
and that's not science. So, I mean, I'll show you videos of Lawrence Krauss saying, if you test something and it doesn't meet the test of experimentation, throw it out. That's what science is. So gravity doesn't work with their observations. And what did they do? Did they throw it out? Hell no. They invented a placeholder. They said, no, we got to put this big placeholder here, because otherwise, they know what's at the end of the tunnel the other way. The end of the tunnel the other way is you have to reevaluate gravity.
This for 500 years. This is one of their great ones.
And that's why they worship Einstein so much, because what Einstein did is
hatched it up.
Yep. And they said, we need somebody smart enough to explain away why this is happening. And he came back with relativity, which even in and of itself doesn't work. But he created a way to, mathematically talk around the system, which is that with distance, things change their size. And, I still can't get over the fact that we believe in a space-time that is bent by matter, but the space-time is the fabric of space, which is the absence of everything. I mean, that right there is the biggest joke. And that's why, what bothers me is people like, Jed Skeptic or, Tim Osman, that these guys are smart. They're smart people. They can research, they can do these things on their own. But because I don't know if it's afraid of going against mainstream, but they're smart enough to see all this, but they just can't. They say, well, there's no proof of the flat earth, therefore it must be this globe. And
same with JOB. I mean,
same
honestly,
thing.
I have a really good interaction with John, and I think he's quite intelligent, quite particular. I think that he's directed his attention in I don't know, sillier matters, but I still respect him. We have a good interaction, but they're holding on to it because of the words flat earth being stupid. But with the umbrella of that, though, it means so much to question so much once you ask that question to yourself.
It does.
What's the shape of the earth? Okay, well, let me find out. Let's get it going. And the paths that you have to go on in order to figure this out, it takes work. It takes work to see this stuff.
And it's frustrating, and it's but at the same time, it's rewarding to at least feel comfortable in your beliefs. And for the first time in my life, I'm comfortable with where I'm at belief-wise. And we all wish we didn't have to have any beliefs, but that's not possible. I've never been
Absolutely.
I've never been to Australia, so I have to make a decision whether or not I think Australia exists. I've come to the conclusion that it does exist based off of the evidence that I have, and so you have to take each thing like that. And for someone to say and make videos about and call me a troll or call me a charlatan or whatever, thinking that I'm pushing something false. Nobody wants to be considered stupid. Nobody wants to be looked at as a flat earther. I mean, nobody wants that. It's more a matter of I'm trying to get across to people that there's a problem with the cosmology that we were taught, and if you look into it, if you research it, you will come to the same conclusion. I'm sure of that, and that's why I'm able to put that out there, because there's no other...
Right?
That's what I thought. But then I see people like, Jed Skeptic that will say because he saw the moon upside down versus somebody else that it means that the Earth's a globe. I mean,
doesn't it show you the level of understanding that they're at that moment? I mean, this was like a progressive thing. You can kind of see, where people are at in a large way.
And I would just hope that they would understand.
Like I said the other day, they are true believers. From the best I can tell, they absolutely think that they're doing something good, and
or they think they're protecting people, right?
They think that this idea is dangerous, and by spreading this honestly, it's very anti-free thought, but it's...
Don't they understand that science today, even if, let's say that the globe is true, that the reason we have that belief now is because that they had to realize that even though these guys came out with these crazy ideas, that they ended up being
Why are
right.
they a threat if there's no... You know what I mean? Like, why do people act like...
I don't get it.
Why, don't say flat earth.
How could it be a threat? Again, it goes back to, do they really think that people who are talking about lies can lead the world astray, and they leave something that has good enough evidence to be considered truth? Never. Yeah. Never will that ever happen, because the problem is when they brought this whole idea of the heliocentric system and everything, it was at a time where, like, they went to Japan and they went to the Orient and stuff like that, these Jesuits, to set up astronomies. They didn't have that knowledge, so they thought they were getting something new. And you had all these priests going out teaching. You have the doctrine of discovery, so you've got people going across the Atlantic Ocean, taking over the Indians. This all happened at the same time. It's right there in our history that 500 years ago there was an idea put in place to basically, and I still don't know. I'm not willing to say whether or not I think it was an accident, a mistake, like they really thought that the Earth was a ball, which wouldn't surprise me. It doesn't surprise me in the least. Yeah. So,
not at all, dude.
Right, but then you would understand that if 300 years later, science realized they were wrong, that they would have lied about it. Because they would have had no choice. Because if they would have come out and said, well, here's the thing: science doesn't allow purpose. So if they would have realized the Earth wasn't a ball, then it destroys science altogether. And the science that they had set up, not the idea of science, like, the scientific method.
Yeah.
We're talking about this big ass science. And that makes so much sense to me is if you're a scientist and you've got all your friends and buddies, everybody's a scientist, you're all about science, and you find out you made a fundamental mistake, like thinking that the Earth was a ball when really it's not. You would get to the point where you'd all look at each other and be like, well, we've got two choices. One, we admit it, that we made a mistake and that the Earth is, but then people will never respect us again. We'll lose our jobs. We'll lose our funding. We'll lose our high places in society. We can't let that happen. That would be the church taking back over. And I've actually pointed out many times, I thank them for that, because I don't want to see a world that the Catholic Church ran from 500 years ago till now. But I also have a problem with lying. If you're talking about science, then just be honest. People would have accepted it. But now at this point, now you've done yourself in. Because I do think that at a certain point when they realized that their only option was to keep it going. And then so much as to go out and prove it by sending a spacecraft to the moon, quote unquote. These things are, for like Jed Skeptic, I've heard him talk before. I like listening to his show. Like I say, smart guy. And I've heard him talk before about he doesn't think we went to the moon, or at least has a real hang up with that. And that is so huge to me, because I don't think people understand if we didn't go to the moon, then there is no picture of the Earth until when? 2015. What had happened in 2015 that would cause them to have another picture of the Earth? The flat Earth resurgence. So all these things make sense. And then just think, when you grew up as a kid, or you're driving down the street and you see the moon, it was de facto input in your brain that people had been there and landed on there. So it makes you believe people can live on a ball. And if we didn't go to the moon, then all of a sudden you need to say, well, hold on a second. Can people even live on or land on a ball? And those things are, answered to me. I say it too much, but
that's a strong, deeper aspect to it all. Like
yeah, that's the intent. That's where there's intent to fool people.
They put themselves up as like the new priests in a way. We've got the new knowledge, that kind
and
of
isn't
thing.
that the history of the world? Is that you have these men with robes who told you they have the truth of the world, and you need to come to them and you need to donate to them. And then all of a sudden science came in, knocked the guys with the robes out and put on their trench coats or their lab coats and said, no, we have the truth of the world. You have to go through us. And what do you get from that? You get Brian Dunning and these guys, or what was his name? The guy we were watching that flipped out earlier, was triggered. Can't remember his name. The guy from the Rogan podcast.
Oh gosh, what is it? I'm sorry.
I know, I lost his name.
Anyway. Is that important?
No, but he's not important, believe me. But I mean, that's what you get, is you get these guys that really believe that the people in the white coats are the ones with the answers. They're the only ones who can have the answers. And I mean, I hate to get into really looking at what we've been told. I mean, take the age of the Earth. It is a joke that people think men on Earth can guess the age of the Earth. To me, it's beyond a joke. I don't care what possible. If somebody tells you they know how to figure it out, what they're doing is they're telling you a story that explains their story about a method of how they're going to tell you that they know. They don't know the age of the Earth. It's such a joke. I mean, look at atoms. They say, okay, everything's made up of atoms. Well, what exactly do you mean by that? Like, I believe that there is something at the very lowest level that can't be split, right? That must be the case. Let's say that that's true. Now, they tell you that an atom is the building block of life. Everything's made of atoms, but they've never seen one. But they'll tell you what's going on inside of it. They know what's going on inside of the atom. That they say there's a nucleus and an electron, and these things are stories that explain things to people. They're not the truth. Do people think that there's little orbiting things inside of atoms, even though an atom is the smallest thing that there is and it can't be split? If you can't,
the orbits thing is pushed hard with that recognition in the early 1900s.
Don't they say that atoms can't be split? Isn't that the...
Well, no, I think it's just the difficulty of that task within itself. You could say, it could be split, but that's they claim they had.
Did they have split it?
Large munitions.
Phew. I just think that those things to me, and again, people can say, well, you don't understand it. No, I don't. I don't want to hear the story that tells me how, because I looked at, I did a lot of research into evolution. That's the big one for me, evolution and the moon landings. That those two things, if science didn't have a dogmatic requirement of those two things, then I would, venture back over into really liking science. But when you've told me two things that I can by myself prove to be completely fallacious, then how can I respect you anymore? So I don't respect science and I don't respect scientists for the most part that are given.
But I would like to say, I think when you say science says this or whatnot,
right?
We're talking about a body of work, and I think that the scientism is the reason I make use of that word so much is because there is a difference between the good lowercase s hard-nosed science, where we get our, all of our technology, all of our engineering. There is a tremendous benefit in the progression of the past 450 years in technology and material technology and conveying ideas and making things and creations and whatnot. So,
but those are things that you can humans can prove and improve upon, so that they don't lie about that. That's when science is perfect. I like computer science and things like that, but there is the science which is just so happens they go where you can't go and now make up this huge story that you can't verify. You just have to believe, and they tell you we went to the moon. Nobody can ever prove that.
And that's what I'm saying. There are real sciences, and there is what we should be calling pseudoscience, and it's a strong thing to say, but science is what you do. It's not like
right. Good point.
Yeah, and so at the core of it, there's something tremendously valuable about it. But when it becomes this white coat authoritarian thing, where people say, "Well, I'm not qualified to answer this. Let me defer my mind to someone who is smarter," instead of going out and trying to become smarter about what it is that you're looking at.
Right. And if you just get laughed at, if you're just told that, anybody who thinks we didn't go to the moon is some, quack, well, that's not scientific to me. That you should have the kind of evidence that backs it up, not just excuse after excuse after excuse to cover up all the holes of something that's clearly impossible. And they've even built up the whole Elon Musk. He's landing these rockets. Here comes another rocket back to Earth to land. Look at what a joke that is compared to what they say they did 50 years ago.
They did the rocket landing on the moon
with people inside of it. Then got out, then played golf, then got back in, then launched from the moon, which they've never even been there. They've never been to the moon, but all of a sudden they can just launch from there, reconnect with another spacecraft, and then come back to Earth and dump in the ocean exactly where they thought they would. And then now we had Elon Musk had to keep crashing rockets, and then finally now they're landing. They've never sent a person in one. And yet 50 years ago, with the memory of a Game Boy, people went to the moon. If you believe that, and here's the sad part, if you believe in science and you're scientific and those people have to believe it. They don't have a choice. You don't have a choice if you're a fan of science, because science won't allow it.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to be a scientist and question the moon landings. It is have you ever seen that video of Brian Cox when he's in that car getting ready for that?
Oh my God.
That's the funniest thing that there ever was. That is really good. That one there, he basically loses his mind over a guy who's just joking. The guy is like a throwaway line with something as simple as, what do you think that we didn't? Do you think there's a chance we didn't go to the moon? He loses his mind because he says, that's the thing. If he's a scientist, so he has to believe in it, because if we didn't, he understands the implications, which are extensive.
To say the least.
To say the least, yeah. Have you seen him flip out on the global warming topic?
Yeah, I've seen a couple of videos.
And he's shaking. He's like shaking.
He's insufferable.
Oh, that guy is. I can't stand him. Really cannot stand him. Just because, and that's what I mean by I don't respect scientists. Because if they were real scientists, then they would ask real questions, and they would see the problems that others see. I mean, Michio Kaku said in The Principle that they're off by an order of 10 to how many? What is it? 10 to the 128th? Something like that.
I can't remember. It was like 90-second power or something. I'm not sure.
Yeah, which he says, usually if we're off by an order of 1, there's a problem with, we have to take it back to the, with the universe, they're off by 10 to the 92nd or something, which is a 10 with 92 zeros after it. That's how far off they are. And yet people like Tim Osmond or these people who trust people like that, you have to understand what just was said, that they are so far off. Is the flat earth off by 10 to the 92? I guarantee you it's not. Is it off? Of course it's off. We've had 100 people or 1,000 people researching it for 2 years. Believe me, we have no clue of what the world looks like. As far as the continents and as far as the layout, we don't have a clue. We're having to guess because we were lied to, and it's considered stupid and idiotic to consider the alternative. So we're forced to have to go out and really build from the bottom up. That's not easy. That's extremely difficult. And I'm shocked at where we've gotten, that at least people were able to question what we were all taught. That's the most amazing thing to me, and I don't think what people understand is that in order to be a flat earther, you have to take something that is called fact, something that every scientist believes, something that every intellectual believes, and you have to see enough wrong with it to throw it away, and then grab something that everyone considers idiotic, stupid, ancient, moronic, and adopt that based on the amount of evidence that you can find that supports your worldview or your reality better. And that to me is amazing. That's amazing that we've, and I can't say that I thought that was going to happen at all. In fact, when I started this, I thought I just wanted the proof of the things that I was taught in as a kid. And quickly I realized, with the amount of hate that you get and the amount of comments, I said, wait, this is a problem here. I said, I'm asking scientific questions here, and look what's happening to me. I mean, what? And then you keep waiting. I mean, it's been 2 years, guys. It's been 2 years, and there's been nobody come forward with any evidence. And people say, no, people have come forward with evidence. They've come forward. It's like, no, they haven't. They've given us the same thing I got in class 30 years ago. That's not evidence. Yeah. It's words. I understand.
Same old tired story.
Yeah, I understand how gravity works.
Boats over the curvature. It's
right. There's no. I mean, name one thing that you think somebody. What's the best evidence you've heard for the globe?
Oh goodness.
If you had to prove to somebody that we live on a ball, what would be your best evidence?
Well, you always hear we went over them earlier, but you always hear the boats over the curvature, and that's not the way it works. Even on a ball, I think it would be, it would absolutely do the same thing, because we're talking about atmospheric conditions. You're looking at swells, waves, all this, and they use this all the time, and it is kind of my favorite because they use it all the time. Because when you do the research into it and you start to understand what refraction is and how it works, and what the ocean would look like with all these different heat columns and all this, it changes the way that you see it. And these boats are just being distorted by the atmosphere, and it depends on those circumstances. If it's hot out, or if it's cold, if it's humid, if it's dry out. And they love to use this as their first one.
Yeah, I don't know what I would do. I guess I would say pictures of the Earth. I mean, that's.
I guess most people go to that.
I don't know what else I would give.
One.
Because everything else to me is not evidence. I mean, if I had to convince somebody that we lived on a globe, I would just say there's no way that they have as many pictures as they do, and it's not a globe. That's, I think, the only thing that I could really come up with. You know what I did this morning? It was funny. I woke up at 5:50, had to run outside because the ISS was coming over my house at 5:50, and I ran to my computer, put on the screen recorder, pulled up the live feed, and then went outside and was going to shoot my laser. I was going to try and shoot my laser at the ISS and then catch it on camera if that would happen. I doubt it would, but so then I kind of saw it late. Kind of appear. Oh, so I'm shooting it with my laser. It goes by. So I run inside to see, and the camera was angled down, but it was pointed like right at the Baja California. So like the camera shot just went right by where I live, but didn't show. Excuse me. It showed south of me. I was so pissed. I was like, man, I thought that this was gonna be perfect, but now I realize I need to wait for a day that it's actually right over me, because it wasn't over me. It was, to my east. I'm sorry, to my southwest, going towards my northeast, and so that it wasn't. I'm shooting my laser at it from the side. I need to get a day when it's going to go over me and shoot it straight up. So I was upset at that. Get up for 5:50 in the morning for no reason. So I went back to bed.
But yeah, I saw some recent footage from somebody who was claiming that the docked ship that just went up there, the Dragon, I think.
Mm-hmm.
He was claiming that it is attached, and he took a video of it through his telescope or a specific camera.
The Dragon?
And yeah, it seems
the little dragon thing.
You can't make it out. This is what my point is.
Oh, okay.
He did a good job, but it just looks like a weird blob in the sky. But he's claiming that that's it. There's nothing clear about it. I'll have to show it to you before. I mean, he does really good work, and that's the best shot he could get of it when it came over. This happened last night. I'll have to show it to you.
Did he? You said it was with a telescope or just a camera?
I think it was a camera, actually. But a very good zoom. But he does have a telescope situation. He's got like $10,000 worth of it.
Wow.
So he's pretty much. You look at his channel, he's got nothing but, his astronomy. But he showed it, and it's not clear. This is the biggest issue. It's very faded and whatnot. But
I have on the screen here Skylab undocking, and just anybody who believes this is true. I mean, it's so funny. It is so bad. It is really the Skylab. All you got to do if you ever want to disprove space or just disprove NASA, look up Skylab. That you can see wires. You can see. I mean, it is so bad, and thank goodness that they had to do this. This is our saving grace. I mean, if I would feel bad if it wasn't for the fact that they did all this in 1950. If they would have waited and done it in 2000 and had the technology we have now, then the people for the rest of life would be done. Yeah, they'd be done. There'd be no way you'd ever be able to tell that they faked it. But
here's the thing: they needed the space race. It energized the youths to go out and become engineers and technicians, and they had this big boom in the military-industrial complex.
You have this talking point. That's every time you hear any astronaut talking. I've got a video on here of Armstrong talking, and he's basically saying that exact thing, that it inspires children. It makes them want to go learn the sciences. It makes them want to design and develop things, and we don't want to take that away from them. That's the excuse that they tell. And
well, it's reasonable in some small regard.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's still messed up, but
and I get what they're saying, because I mean, yeah, honestly, if let's say that people found out that, then people might be complacent in just not really caring about growing or caring about designing new things, because they would just say, oh, well, it's what the church taught me. It's Christianity or it's Islam.
There's a lot of people who want to follow. Dogma is a very powerful thing. And when a paradigm gets kind of shattered over something, it's hard to put back together. I've noticed.
It'll be very hard. So yeah,
you can't unsee what you've seen. That's the problem.
No, and I wish you could. I really do. I wish I could go back in time and just stay asleep. I really do. It would have been.
Yeah,
It's sad to say that, but it's
frustrating.
And I think that it would have come out in my reality anyway, eventually. But it's been tough, because I can never go back to believing in the globe. Not after what I've seen. It would take somebody proving it to me, and I really doubt that will happen 2 years after the fact. There's no way that Neil deGrasse or these guys would have let it get this far if they had proof, besides just their words. I tweeted to Neil deGrasse today and said, rather than to keep getting on these podcasts and laughing at people, why don't you prove it? Why don't you make a Fox special where on a Sunday night you're going to prove that the Earth is a ball? And again,
remember they tried that with Hawkins on PBS.
That blew
fraud
up in their
with
face.
CETA.
Yep. Which I've seen.
Literally, check this out. I was on late with Negator going over this issue right when that popped up, and so, he's always ready to do the work and whatnot on it. So we pull it up and we're looking at the math of where it should be, the laser pointer or with the helicopter. The math was off. They were using 0-point ground level instead of the height of the observer.
Right.
And so you saw it in their results. They're like 6 feet at 3 miles, or whatever it was that they
Everything
said.
just to the point of the calculator, right? Exactly right.
Yeah, and this is what people accuse flat earthers of doing. I've seen. But yeah, it's a fraud, and for them to have made that, and especially at the time frame they did, was very telling. They're responding big time.
Oh yeah, I mean, this is the stuff you need. This stuff right here. Look at this right here. I mean, they're not trying to tell people that this is fake. That's what they passed off as real back in these days. That these guys, and I still think it's hilarious when you watch any space thing. You've got all these guys hanging out in this big control room, right? And they're always watching the cartoon version. After, the rocket takes off, it's going to go dump in the water, whatever it does. And then they do the flip, the switch to the cartoon version. And people are actually sitting there watching it in this control center. And then they wait for something to happen, and they all shake hands and they celebrate. And it's like, does nobody realize they're watching a cartoon? Unless did somebody draw the cartoon in a way that it would, oh man, it would be hilarious. I mean, they would have to have draw it blowing up, draw it doing all these different things that it could possibly do so that you're actually watching real-time something. They're not watching real-time anything. They're watching cartoons. Yeah. Oh, this guy too, Jules Bergman, he was in on it all. And the way they describe it, look at that thing. These guys are classic. Yeah, but watching these old things are just so funny, and it just makes so much sense to me. People say, you think all these military people are making things up? I've told the story before. My brother was on the boat when they dumped Osama bin Laden's body, and I said, tell me about it. He's like, yeah, the helicopter landed, and then they took the box out, and I'm like, then what? You saw him? He's like, well, he was in the box. I'm like, yeah, I know that, but I mean, you saw him? He's like, no. I said, did you see him dump him in the water? He says, no, we all got put on lockdown. Like, what do you mean? He's like, well, they put everybody on the ship in their rooms and locked the doors and said that they had to give him a proper, Muslim burial. Like, how do you know that he was even in the box, dude? He's like, what do you mean? What do you thinking they would lie to us? I'm like, why would they lock you?
It's that authority structure.
Jeez, I'm like, dude. He's like, there's no way they would lie. Why would they even do that? Why would they land the helicopter there? Why would they pull a box out? Like, you're an idiot, dude. I'm not talking anymore about this. That's ridiculous. Yeah, this is when it was coming back. This, these guys from Skylab, and they're showing all these guys on the boat waiting for it, and I mean, that's the fakest sky you've ever seen there, and it's just ridiculous because then it just appears, and they're like, oh, there it is, and it came out of a plane, guys. I mean, these are not hard to figure out, but I understand if you're on that boat as a military guy, you're going to think the same thing. Why would they bring us out here to fake something? Well, hopefully you see now. And by the way, I do have an interview coming up. I don't know if it's going to be Wednesday or Thursday this week with a guy who works down south at Vandenberg Air Force Base. Wrote me and said that he has some information and has seen some anomalies with the different launches. He's part of the security team, and he works at Vandenberg Air Force Base. Has been there for years, and absolutely is a flat earther. So for people who think that this is impossible. And he said his actual employers and stuff know that he's one, which is crazy. But he said, he thinks it's better to be open and public about things like that. Because, and I agree, that's why I keep speaking out. Because if people always say, well, if you're telling the truth, then why have they come and killed you? Well, it wouldn't be very good for the powers that be to end my life, because that's going to kind of tell a lot of people something, so the more that you're public about it, I feel like they just want people to look at me as a crazy conspiracy kook. And
well, we kind of are. Let's admit it.
Absolutely.
We don't have any letters. We don't have any letters behind our name, and we don't have any influence.
I have no PhDs. I've got no. Where's your credentials? I don't have one. Where'd you graduate from?
No, we're laymen. We're laymen, and we see this as something to. It's definitely worth looking into. I at this point, I still don't know. I kind of rail against dogma and belief systems a lot, but I have no problem with it. Like, if you believe in the globe, you believe in the globe. You only experience a flat, motionless Earth where the sun, moon, and stars move overhead. So that's your direct experience. You can either just casually accept your senses for a moment and then think about it
and you talked
in the
about,
other way.
You talked about JLB earlier, and I wish that he would have stuck to what he was. He could have kept doing the globe Earth skeptic and turned that on flat earthers. In fact, I wish he would have. Challenge
I
them.
think that's the way the story goes. Somebody insisted that he's not being a flat Earth skeptic because he was only going after the globe.
So what he did is he turned on to the same people that have the same, basically objections that he has, and turned his focus on them. Which, what good can come of that? Well, that's the problem. Is he could have taken his strengths, and you're right. He's highly intelligent. He could have taken that and used it to benefit the world by helping the truth come out. Instead, he's turned it for some reason on flat earthers, who are admitting.
Well, I don't want to speak for him, but I think he's just quite jaded and cynical at this point, and not in a negative way. I mean, I think he might feel that, or at least I would, that the idea that he very much was a person, a part of when it started, the social scene that surrounded it was just garbage on YouTube. I don't mean like fully.
I don't disagree with that.
There's been a lot of problems.
I've tried to stay out of that as much as humanly possible because I don't.
You guys are smart to do.
Yeah, it's just not what I want to be a part of. It's not the point. People need to recognize that that's going to happen. Is you're going to have a human element to everything, and if you
it's no indicator as to the health of the idea, though. This is what is frustrating. It seems to be conflated, and I don't think that that's correct way to do it.
No, and I don't think it was ever done on purpose. Nobody was trying to. It's just what happens in human nature. You're not going to, again, you're never going to have the same beliefs. You're never going to have the same opinions. But,
it's all clicks. And, actually, Jesse Spots called it out. We talked about that before.
Oh, man, that's one of the best videos he's ever done.
Yeah, the Breakfast Club one.
Breakfast Club. Look at this thing moving back there. So funny. Yeah, because it is, he pointed out the whole idea of clicks, and he said it was all going to happen in exactly the way it did, and people should have seen it coming. And it's just a problem because rather than joining together and really turning all of our focus on the ones who have lied to us, instead there's infighting. There's you've got, first of all, the number one flat Earth channel is someone who will not dare ever join anybody in talking about Dubé. He won't.
Oh yeah,
it's out of the question. He at one time kind of dabbled with ODD, which forced ODD to have to choose between and that sucks. I recognize that because it happened to me real early on, to where I was confident that I could speak on my own behalf, and they would tell me, oh, Mark Sargent's a shill. I said, I don't care. I'm going on his show, and if he says shill shit, I'm going to call it out. And they said, no, if you go on his show, you're a shill. I said, but I haven't said anything on the show yet. They're like, no, if you go on the show, you're a shill. I said, well, that's great. Then I'm going on the show because I don't care. I'm about promoting what I feel is the truth and trying to uncover and expose lies. It doesn't matter
I'll
to me.
take information from anyone.
Yeah,
I've
anybody.
said this from the get-go.
That's the thing. People always say, oh, he's a shill. See, I even tried with Zach Hubbard. I tried to have a rational conversation with him, and I realized real quickly that he didn't listen to a word I said, which I should have realized originally because I talked to him on Skype twice and explained answers to his questions, and then he kept coming out with videos just repeating what he had already said. And I was like, dude, do you remember the conversation we had? You seemed to understand what I was saying then, and then had him on the Raw show, and he did the same thing. I was like, I'm done. It's not those people I'm not interested in. If people want to believe in the globe, that's fine. If you have questions about the flat Earth, I'll help you. I'll help you with what I've uncovered or what I've seen and how I would explain it. But it certainly isn't. I don't know all the truth. So if you need a replacement, if you feel like the globe is the truth, it has enough evidence for you to call it fact, then I'm gonna have a hard time giving you the amount of evidence that you might require to replace that. That's not going to be possible for me. I've been doing this for 2 years, and it's tough to research from a bottoms up where anything that you're gonna has been hidden from you. These things are hidden. That's why you've got to review these old tapes. Yeah. You've got to really look at old books and kind of write your own story And as long as it matches the evidence, well, then, and mine does. To me, I don't have any problem with my evidence matching exactly now my reality. The way I can totally see. I mean, people need to understand when you go watch the sunset tonight and understand that means you're falling back away from the earth, or you're falling back away from the sun in a spinning earth. That's what's causing. I mean, that's the crazy thing is these people all watch the sun and the moon. They know that they're moving in the sky. You may have convinced yourself somehow, some way, but you really never do. I mean, think about when you're sitting in a car and a car next to you starts to back up and you get all scared, right? Because you're like, oh, shoot, am I moving? Like,
it's happened like once or twice where I thought all of a sudden that it was moving. Yeah, I've seen that situation before.
Or like you've been on a boat and then you get off and like you have sea legs. Or you ever tried to like step on an escalator that's not working, you like lose your balance? Like there's so many little things that happen to us based on our opinion of balance and
our vestibular system.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So then when you look at the idea of the spinning earth and all this, you have to understand if you're just looking north for 5 minutes and you turn around and look south, that you should feel that. That is a complete change in your momentum. It is a complete and total change of all that. And we don't feel anything like that. No one's ever felt a thing. And yet, that's why you don't look at, you would think occasionally you would watch some star trails and you should feel like, oh, I feel like I'm moving. Oh shit, I'm turning. You don't you look at the star trails, you're like, oh, the stars do circles in the sky. Yeah, you're damn right they do. Period. That's it. You don't move. Your earth doesn't move. You would feel it. You would reckon. Sometimes you'd be watching the sunset. You'd be like, oh shit, I feel like I'm moving. Because how would you know the difference? Well, it's because clearly our observations are telling you something very strongly. The way I look at it, your creator is telling you something very strongly, and you're choosing to take the word of men to replace your observations. If you feel safe doing that, more power to you. I don't unless they were telling me nothing but the truth. If somebody was telling me the truth, I would recognize it.
Yeah, they've convinced us of something that is on its own self backwards and inverted. So when you're born, you're raised up with this and you see that globe, deeply psychologically, like archetypally, you're going to pick up the subtle things from the implications of being on a globe. The thinking of aliens and like it just completely controls your paradigm because now you're stuck in outer space. It's a sci-fi story that they've got running live, especially with these new planets they just found. That TRAPPIST-1.
Oh boy, don't get me started on that. I mean, that's such a joke, and it's so funny because Bob tweeted yesterday. Bob says Earth is flat. NASA finds gravity waves. Kyrie says Earth is flat. NASA finds 7 planets because they both happened. They both happened 2 days after. They both were they were in the wings, ready to come out when they needed to push their more nonsense. I want to show the Google Earth real quick, and then we'll be done.
Okay.
Just so people could see the little issue. It's a transition here. So this is something I was showing Cathexis last night that I thought was interesting. Can I stop that video? Sorry, hold on. Don't want to see that move in the background. And a lot of people don't know this or haven't seen this, and I thought it was crazy that if you take this measuring tool, and I don't think you can see it, can you? Nope, it's not on the screen. It's weird. If you take this measuring tool and you measure from, say here, we're kind of close to where I live, and oh man, you don't get to see that box. See, now I can't. Now even it's not worth showing. People won't believe me because you can't see. Can you see the little ruler box?
Yeah.
Oh, you can see the heading and the miles and everything?
Yeah, I can see it.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wait. No, wait. That box that comes up with the information.
Yeah, it's right here. I'm holding it. I'm actually moving it right on the screen. That pisses me off.
Well, I see the yellow mark and the square box around that, but no.
You see a square box?
No, not like one with text and stuff like that.
Well, I'll just do it real quick and people can try it themselves because I'm obviously not going to lie about it. But if you start the line here, and I'm just taking off in a 90-degree heading, which would be dead east, right? So this right here is 90.15 degrees. Okay, so let's save that. And, okay, so this is 90.5 degrees, which is exactly east of this location. So what would it be if I went from here? Okay, so we're going to zoom in here, and we're going to go from same spot. We're going this way. So, ask you guys at home, what should this be? What it should be exactly 270, right? We're going east. Actually, it's 279. 270 is a little bit lower. There. That's 270.34. Okay, so now what I just showed is that from this location, dead east is this way, and from this location, dead west is this way. So that creates a little bit of an issue, and let me show you why. Because I'm sure you've heard people say that on the equinox that the sun rises for everyone in the east, which, you know, globe believers use as a proof that, you know, the sun is far and that it's exactly the way that the globe describes. Well, let me show you something interesting. So I'm going to take let me take this line here. So this line of latitude here, north south, I'm just going to draw some lines coming off of this line, and each time I'm going to make sure that I'm going 90 degrees east. Okay, so I'm going to go 90 degrees, and I'll just call them out so you know. That's 90.05, saving. So that means that's east for that location, and we're just going to keep grabbing it and doing the same thing. So I've always thought that that meant that each person looking to their east saw the sun, and what we're going to find out here shortly is, of course it does, because east for everyone is where the sun is, not the same direction. This is something I never knew. So save that. And okay. And so if you get, you know, down here, I'll skip ahead to move. So down here now, you know, you would think which way is east? It should be right along this line here. But if you draw it from east here, 90 degrees is this way. 90 is, that's 91, 90. So what you need to realize from this is why the sun rises from the east for each person, because
and especially on the equinox. Look at how it's looking.
So when you spin this around and you say, why does each person see the sun? Well, if this is angled towards where the sun is, then of course it does. And this just is more the proofs that, you know, people will keep discovering, because if you took this line and let's get down here and say we're looking right along it, okay, and we're looking at the sun rising from that location, right? And then if you just move this way, you'll just realize that they're all looking in the same area. It's not all looking east. And that's something I always thought. I thought that the flat earth model was different, meaning that the flat earth, you have to adjust for every location where you're at. Meaning if you're standing in a spot, north, south, east, west, you know where north is, south's behind you, east is 90 degrees right, and to your left 90 degrees would be west. So if you move just 10 feet to your right, you have to readjust your positioning because it's based on the North Pole. Well, that's the same way the globe is, and I did not know that. If that's the case, then it's just more evidence for me again that stop looking up high like that. It just should tell you something that I'm sure you've heard people say when you talk about the flat Earth and you look at like the equator, and let's say somebody's going in the circle around the equator, they'll say, well, how does that work? That's not straight. And you'll say, well, each moment you go, you have to readjust. And they say, that's crazy. You know, the globe doesn't have to do that. Well, the globe does have to do that, because if you were to take, say, this line here, and we were going to go around the Earth going east, well, 90 degrees is here. So you're like, wait a second, why am I going down? And then if we drew another line here, and we went 90, hello, draw a line, 90 degrees from here is right, right there. So what you're basically doing is you're not going straight, because each time you're adjusting with north. So your north-south will always be the same. North-south right here is always the same. That's 180 degrees. It doesn't change, meaning if you move here, it's going to be on this line. North-south, 180 degrees.
That's so strange.
Yeah, your east-west changes, meaning this right here, so if we got down to the tiniest level and we said, let's draw a line here, okay, this would be your 90 degrees east. It's going to match what you think of as east.
Yeah,
okay, so
absolutely.
that's 90, that's going to match. But if I pull back and say, well, now I want to go 90 degrees east from here, and you go this way, well, 90 degrees now is right 87, 88, 89, there. So you'll start to realize how it's off, because it always has, you have to constantly adjust, you know, yourself based on where north and south is, which always adjusts.
Yeah, just like the azimuthal, or like the idea of the azimuthal with north in the center in the circle.
See, didn't you think that was different than the globe?
Well, it's.
I used to think it was different.
Yeah, I thought Yeah, pretty much. I thought it was different. The globe, I didn't think they had that issue in flat Earth. It was a weird thought pattern of like how it could be done, but it makes complete sense when you look at what you're doing right here.
Yeah, it was
showing
like,
the orientation of the continents looking east.
right, which that tells you that at least for my own knowledge, that these are the kind of things that are not told to you on purpose, because if they told you that's how the north-south works, and if you really, really think about it, it makes sense, because north doesn't change. So you can't go from, and I think people have understood that for a while. I mean, if you're right here, which way is east? Well, there's no east. It's impossible.
It's a very hard question.
Right, and that's the problem, is that you get at certain points the globe doesn't have the answers, and that's what I mean by perceived perfection. That we've always thought the globe works. It doesn't work. It just, you can't live on this ball, and that's something I know to be true now. It's just, there is no evidence that you can ever live on a ball, and I think, when you really start looking at the whole idea of there never being a hump, that was the other big one for me. I used to have this issue with, I said, okay, because I would put my little man on the globe on the side and see the hump in front of him. I'd say, okay, well, that's what the hump would be. That's maybe why we see water taking up half the buildings in Chicago. Well, then when I realized that that is part of the deception, that if you put somebody at the top of the globe, then everything away from them is falling down. There's never a rising. There is no hump. No such thing as a hump. A hump can't exist on the globe. I used to think it could, which is a easy way to explain away, some things that we see. I think what we see is the result of living on a plane. That's why things rise to our eye level, because that is the nature of a plane. And I don't mean, because people always say, oh, it doesn't always rise to our eye level. I don't mean that if you go up and up and up as high as you can, that it will always rise to your eye level up high.
They try to assert that, and it does lower by 3 degrees when you're up about the height of the balloons.
Right.
If you were to take like a theodolite app, you can see it's about 3 arcseconds.
Right, and that makes sense, but it also would make sense because I don't know about you. I don't believe in. Oh, you don't believe in a flat Earth, but I don't believe that it's an infinite plane. I don't really think infinity exists anyway, so I wouldn't expect that. Meaning, no matter how far it goes, at a certain point, you're going to have to. The horizon is going to lower a little bit, but I don't even think that's what's happening. I think what's happening is you're losing your ability to see, which we all know is true. In fact, I have a paper written in let's say 1940 or something, that was a peer-reviewed paper that said they did a study on the horizon, and you could not see the horizon after being something like 3,000 feet high, something very small like that. I'll have to find the paper. But basically they said that it becomes imperceptible. So you can't even see the horizon, and yet you've got people saying, well, when we're 35,000 feet, it's dropped so much. Well, yeah, your ability to see stopped at a certain point. So, of course...
Yeah, you have the angular diameter issue, which is what, small things getting smaller as they go away from you. And then you have the atmosphere. And that's why I rail on that, because the atmospheric conditions, these guys want to say that refraction is some type of... They use it like the word gravity. It's kind of funny. When we're like, why can we see this from here?
Yeah.
Why is there this more showing?
It's refraction, don't you know that?
Refraction. It's wrapping the image around the ball to your eyes.
Yeah, perfectly. Holding it up straight, upright. It knows exactly how much of the buildings to lift up above the water. Oh, man. This right here, this yellow line, is east of this location. 90 degrees east. Can you believe that? You would think it's over here. 90 degrees east. But when you talk about why does this person see the sun rise in the east on the equinox? Because it has to look at the equator, because that's where the sun is. If the sun's going around the equator, you're going to have to look at the equator to get it. Yeah. It's just so obvious once you really dig deep. So, for everyone, I all I can say is do your own research over and over again. I'll tell you 100 times a day. Do not ever trust me. That would be the dumbest thing you could ever possibly do, because it's the problem with the world, is that we all trusted people who said they knew. And I'm just telling you, I show my evidence, because if I'm saying something wrong, if I don't understand, maybe somebody can find, oh, this isn't actually east. It actually is this way, and the Google program screwed up. Whatever.
Good.
Tell me.
Yeah, correct me.
Correct me. Yeah.
I'm the same way.
Yeah, I did. That's why I put, my research out there, because I don't care if I'm wrong. Obviously, none of us want to make a mistake. I try and make sure that I go through my videos closely to make sure I don't. But I've made several, tons, and things that I used to believe that I don't anymore. I mean, I was somebody at the very beginning who was drawing the flat line on the horizon and saying, "See, it's flat. It's always flat." And then it took David Weiss telling me that, talking about how we're the radius of a circle. And, he was saying, because I was saying, isn't it weird that we can see further left and right than we can straight ahead? He's like, well, you can't. That's impossible. Like, well, we must, because this is a flat line, and then he explained to me, and I understood the circle, and I said, oh, okay, I see how it works. And I said, well, now...
a bubble of consciousness that exists around everyone.
Yeah. I mean, you kind of believe in that we each are our own universe? Or we each...
we could go deep on that with quantum mechanics, It opens up a lot. Because it's almost like our sphere of influence, that exists around us. Anyways, lost my train of thought. What were we talking about again?
I said if you were the center of your own universe.
Oh yeah. The solipsism issue. That's what I think happened to Lord Stephen Christ. He thought he realized he was God, and then. Like his ego took over, and he's like, "That's it. I'm telling everybody. I don't even need to keep it private."
Nope. I can just scream at Obama. It's the Jews.
Yeah, but out here, people's paradigms are taking a hit right now. Well, it's really interesting to see the progress over the past 2 years, and now we have this new influx of people.
And I don't think it's going away. I'm not. That's the least thing I'm
worried
about.
It's in the public consciousness now, big time.
No, that's the least thing I'm worried about. What I'm most worried about is I'm never a doom and gloom guy, but I think I recognize that NASA can never admit what they've done. That I don't think that that's even a possibility. They can't. It just is not something you could ever admit, because you're basically saying that think of all the people who have built satellites, the people who have worked for JBL, the people who have worked for NASA, the people
in some way.
Yeah, and teachers. I mean, imagine teachers would realize that they have contributed to the deception of every human being. That the security team for NASA, the military that's out there collecting these pods out of the water, they're all involved in the biggest conspiracy of all time. And that is enough to, make anybody lose it. I mean, you would have people who would flip out. So I guess my only fear is ultimately what happens when this gets out there. And that's the only thing. And it's not a matter of, people saying, oh, it's dangerous what you're talking about. Well, I hope you don't mean bringing the truth is dangerous. What's dangerous is if we all went away, if we all did what Tim Osmond wants us to do and just go back to being robots and watching TV and letting the earth be a globe, imagine the people born 50 years from now. If you're comfortable with them being the most, they would be completely enslaved drones. They'd be no nothings. They wouldn't have a chance. And I can't put that on my conscience.
Well,
that's kind of
it's the consensus reality. It's very difficult to go against what everybody else thinks to be true.
Mm-hmm.
When you explore these ideas, you have to set your paradigm aside and research it in a way that is unbiased. And this goes for all the topics we're talking about, even concerning religion. As we went through all of that earlier, it's just a matter of research. It's a matter of acclamation of the correct information, and it's best to get it from the source.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same with the globe. You have to research this before anybody can even come to a point where they go, okay, wait, I've seen enough now. There's something wrong here. If you do like a week and a half, typically it's not enough to see the larger paradigm at work.
Yeah, and I hope that's what again, I love Christians. I hope that that they also are looking deep and deeper into this, and not just saying
absolutely
they are. And I can from Chris Rock and these guys that have done an awesome job of it, bringing some of this forward. But I know there's some that simply grab onto it's in the Bible, therefore it's true. End of story. But
remember, they are just YouTube comments at times.
True.
YouTube is kind of a cesspool with some bad.
Kind of. But the good thing about that is that even if that's what their belief is that we need help in uncovering this stuff. That
we need the smart minds, with us too, from that side.
Absolutely.
But but they've sharpened my arguments. I'll tell you what. That's what I've been doing out here. I'll go out and speak to the people I disagree with, and I gain a lot because I sharpen their arguments. My arguments get sharpened, and it is what it is. Prior I had accepted information that I thought was sound, and then I learned was not. And this happens repeatedly, but you're not going to have that if you're sitting in an echo chamber all day long.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, that's something that happens. People getting clicks. People will only talk to certain small groups or whatever. You're going to end up, I don't know, isolating yourself, and we've seen that's why we have all these little social problems that exist. So,
yep,
in the community, but overall, it's not about that. It's about the information. It's an individual pursuit. Everybody has to take time to make sure what the hell this is, and it's not adding up.
Yeah, don't just buy into it. And expose it. Expose it if it's false. And before we end, we'll end the show. But I just wanted to show this because I keep saying it, and I don't think I've shown it correctly. That what I mean by there's no hump. In case people still think, oops, your little box is in my way. What I mean by there's no hump is I used to think that when they draw, they show this usually. I'm sure you've seen this a million times. They'll show this item up here, and then to show you how, let me go different color, this one. So to show you where your eyes would be, they draw this line, and this is how they tell you, well, what this makes it look like is there is a hump in front of your eyes. And then you get into the problem of saying, well, okay, how much over the hump are things, this and that. Well, really what the case is this is your eye line. Okay? Because you would see your eyes, you stand up at the beach and you're looking out at a perpendicular angle, not at a angle.
Yeah.
You don't stare at the horizon line. Now, here's another thing. Like, people draw this guy here, and they usually will, have you ever seen this? They draw like this, and then we'll draw the line from here. Like, nobody leans forward. Nobody stands like they need their V8. People stand like this. There has to be a 90-degree angle here. And then your eyes would be this way. So once you realize that, you realize there is no hump. No matter where you're at on the ball, there can never be a hump. The ball, if you look here, would always fall away from the observer. So what that does is it completely eliminates the idea of a hump from the equation, which in and of itself, to me, disproved the globe. That was the kicker, because now I understood that what I do see with my eyes, when we look out at the ocean, and let's say you're standing here. Hopefully people can see what I'm doing. I don't even know. I wasn't paying attention.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, good. You're standing here and you're looking out at the beach, and you see that big water line out here, and we don't realize, we think this is the nature of a ball, that we say, oh, the ball rises to our eye level as it goes off in the distance and then falls off, and we have the boat going behind the curvature over here or whatever. Well, now I realize that since there can't be a hump even mathematically, that from anywhere on the globe it must fall away from your feet, then what we see at the beach is the nature of a plane. That if you were living on a plane, on a flat plane, so for instance you're you live here and you're looking out this way and you live on a plane that's flat, well, this person would see, as they looked out, eventually the sky and the floor would meet. And that's what we see at the beach. And that's why the water appears to our eyes to rise to the eye level, but on a ball it would not do that. And you can just take a
I agree with you.
Yeah, if you go
Quite a
to
lot.
the and I love too that I played that song. You can check it out on my channel. It's "Stand in the Place Where You Live." Now turn north. That song. Throughout that song, they're flashing images, and you'll see them show a hill, and they'll show them rising up from behind the hill. They show that. What they're showing you is that that's the way a ball would work. That if you think of a hill, how it falls away from your feet. Hills don't rise to your eye level. That's not the way a hill works. Well, if we were standing on a ball like this and looking out at the water, well, everything would have to fall away from you. So when you look out at the ocean, there's nothing that would make the water rise to your eye level. That is the nature of a plane. And that was a big one for me, because and that's what I was trying to tell that Metabunk people, because they had their calculator wrong. They were showing from here, okay, here's this thing here, and then they had it like this with the line like this. And I said, dude, that's not, nobody stands like that and looks at the ground. That's not. We stand and
And
look
you see
straight out.
this with even on Earth discussions. I've seen Rumpus have that same diagram of and him explaining, over the hump like idea.
Right.
But the Earth is so massive; it's an absurd way to measure it. It's quite clear if it's just a couple of miles. It's a big ball with a planar nature, is what they claim.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Right. They say that every area, can be taken as flat. Well, these are the kind of things that are what I mean by the perceived perfection. People just accept that. They accept that oh, well, it's a ball, but everywhere you are, it appears flat. You accept that. What if I just said, well, it's flat, but everywhere you are, there's a curve because it appears like a ball? And you can't have one and not understand the alternative or the alternate explanation. That makes no sense.
Yeah, because it is objectively flat and motionless with the sun, moon, and stars moving overhead. Now, I mean objectively on the most basic primal experience of sense data. No, that's what blew my mind the most. And then, like you said, the drop or the planar nature of the Earth that we see. So as we go up, you're absolutely right. If you do this in CG, well, just like computer graphics, I've seen it with what was it? Just a bunch of pink lights, like a checkerboard or whatever, as a ball, and it falling away, and then you see a plane, rising up, and you just see further and further and further and further. So you can graphic this out with the real math, the real geometry of it, and whatnot. And there's actually, I know you've seen it before. The physics group that was asked, what would it be like would we have a horizon if it was a flat Earth?
Oh, yeah, I love that.
Yeah. He's like, well, turns out it'd be exactly the same thing.
He said it'd be imperceptible. You wouldn't be able to tell the difference. And yeah, because I used to have a problem. I would get here and I would draw my guy here, and then I would see this hump. I'd say, oh, it does. Look, it's rising up. It rises from my feet. That explains to me why when I look out at the ocean, the water rises up. But if you really look at what I drew there, that person is not standing correctly. This person is standing sideways. And you don't ever stand leaning forward. You stand upright. So if you're upright, you're actually standing like, this. It has to be a 90-degree angle with the, with the ground. And so once you've drawn the correct, even that's not right. Yeah, it would be more like, I don't know, like that. Oh, is that 90? I can't really tell now. Something like that. So once it's 90, though, then you realize that there is no hump. That it's not possible, not even mathematically. That is way off. That's not even close. But it should come up like this. And anyway, once you realize that,
everything's falling away from you. You're always on top of the ball.
Correct. Yeah, and I think that is, I think Rob Skiba did the best video that I'd seen on it, and the way that he described, if you take a 6-foot person, so let's just say this is a 6-foot person, and then you went 1 mile away. We know that at 1 mile it's 8 inches, right? And you stand this 6-foot person here, and he's 8 inches below. And then you go to this guy. We know that that's 32 inches below. And then this guy is 72 inches, right? So what you've just done is in 3 miles, then it means that at his foot level, because this person is 6 foot tall, that everybody 3 miles away from you would be underneath your feet. Okay, so if you picture, right? Because it's this, you're going to have a 72-inch drop at 3 miles away. And so this person here is 6 foot tall, meaning that this person's 6 foot tall, he would be under his feet. So now you have to realize that in a 3-mile circle, so that's just a 3 miles, that anybody standing away from you would have to be completely under the horizon line. And
the globe is so metaphysical.
It's so metaphysical. It doesn't work. It just doesn't work. There's no way it could work. I mean,
it's metaphysical. I can see like the spark in Pythagoras' eyes and what this whole thing is, man. Like I get it. I can see it if you just do the history on it.
Same thing with like Newton, right?
What's that?
Same thing with Newton. I mean, Newton's thought experiment. Great idea.
Oh yeah, that's the reason why we have orbits. For Christ's sake, like where they claim. No, I mean, there's tremendous value, but you got to look at these people's histories, their religious beliefs, their associations. The timing of their work, what they actually said. But when you go and do the history of this, actually a quick shout out to Truth is Stranger Than Fiction here on YouTube, because he is on this like crazy, and he's somebody from a Christian worldview, but he's absolutely on point with everything. And And that's what I respect. Like gentlemen like Rob Skiba, I would love to talk to him. He seems like one of the probably the better researchers we have on the team in a large regard.
Absolutely. He actually is out there doing it, and we got to see his progression. I mean, when he started this, he was not a flat earther. And
I know.
as he started learning things, he wouldn't call him that.
I hate to say it, I got the term apologist from him in this context. I was listening to a random offshot little thing he said. He goes, I guess I'm a flat earth apologist at this point. And I was like...
That's what you stole.
So I kind of said, that's a good way to explain it. Thank you, Mr. Skiba.
Yeah.
Because I'm still agnostic. I have no idea what it is.
Yeah, and you know what? I would admit the same. It just to me, I wanted to make I still want to make a splash about it because it's too late at this point for me to say I'm a Glober skeptic. You know, people are gonna say, "No, you're that flat earther." They're like, all right, you're right. It's just there's too much evidence of fuckery on behalf of science and scientists who have told us this story about the ball, and that alone, once you realize that has been forced on you from a young age, before anything else, before it was addition and globe. It was really and it wasn't explained in a scientific way to where you got to see tests or experiments. Maybe somebody else did. Maybe it's just my school that didn't. But I've seen like on TV or, I've seen like schools go out and do tests with sticks. And did you do that? Did you do like the Aristophanes test? Yeah. I never did anything
I
like
looked
that.
at it in detail. I found actually a couple.
No, I mean, did you do it as a student in school?
Oh no.
Yeah, me neither. And so that baffles me. Is why was I told these things and not given any background about it? I mean, imagine if the Earth was a globe. What a great exercise it would be to have every sixth grade class go out and say, how many people think the Earth's flat? How many think it's round? Okay, well, half the class is going to spend the week coming up with evidence of this, and half the class, and then at the end of the week, you explain how the evidence far is in favor of the globe.
That's how you make flat earthers, Jeran.
Exactly. Then you realize why. Oh man, that's too funny.
Yeah, and you know what? It is. I keep saying it, but man, this stuff is shocking to people at their core. And I've seen that's why these people are lashing out. I think.
It makes me laugh. Look at this circle on the screen and it's so funny to me. Picture a ball of, I don't know what. I guess it's, you have your layers and you got your inner core of iron spinning liquid. It's ridiculous. And so then picture that everybody on the Earth is standing on the Earth, and picture all these people. It's not, there's nothing in our reality that tells us that exists. And I'm not saying that that's proof of anything, because you could say that there's nothing in our reality that says something that atoms exist, but maybe I believe that they do. I don't necessarily believe in the same thing. I believe that there is a fundamental particle, the tiniest thing you can never split. I do think that exists, but then I don't tell you what's inside it. But when you just think of the ball, I mean, it's just not something that I can anymore. I laugh now, and I don't mind believing in it. I just don't think it's humanly possible. So if somebody shows evidence, I'm certainly not against looking at evidence, but.
And the latitude and longitude situation too, just quickly.
Yeah.
I realized this past couple weeks ago. Longitude is determined by the angle of Polaris at apex.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, so if you're at the 45, it's 45 degrees. You're on the 45th latitude. Longitude is where the sun's at during zenith. At a particular time. I'm more concerned with the latitude, though. And I've heard guys say, no, if I go to the 50th and point my telescope out, it's going to be there at the 50th. They think it's weird. They think it's some kind of proof when the whole system was built like that.
Yeah, that's how the system was built. I mean, people don't realize that this was 400 years ago that they supposedly knew the longitude, latitude. It doesn't make any sense, but then it kind of does when you realize, and this is what was huge for me in finding that east-west and the direction anomaly, because basically what that told me is, okay, this is just more evidence that they took the plain Earth and moved it into a ball. And that's what they did with, same thing with the idea of longitude, latitude. I mean, they knew that there was a North and South Pole 300 years before they even went there. They just had based it on the fact that, the sun in Cyrene, Egypt, and, like you said, it's based off of your angle to the sun. So they said, okay, well, if I'm right here and this is not to the sun, to the Polaris. So if I'm here and this is a 45-degree angle to Polaris, then I'm at the 45-degree marker. And then you've got, 60 degrees is up here. Sorry, my terrible drawing. This is 60 degrees. And then they said, well, there theoretically would be a 90, right? I mean, they won't say it theoretically, but that's what basically they did. And then when you're at the equator, which that line's not the equator, but when you're at the equator, then, what would be the angle there? I don't even know. What would that... so the equator would be 0, right? That's
If you're
what
at the
we call
equator,
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
0 degrees on the Earth, you're not supposed to be able to see it. Yeah.
Right. And then you go to 45 here, and then you would have 90 here. So they knew this North and South Pole back 300 years before they'd ever been there.
This is the next point that I had realized, that they had the north done of the latitude and longitude very effectively. And what they did was, when they asserted it was a ball, they just duplicated it.
Right. Going the opposite way.
That's it. Yeah, that's what it is. That's why there's all this confusion in the southern seas. The system is just built that way.
And there will be confusion because we know it, or I don't want to say we know, in a flat Earth ideal, that expands the southern hemisphere, and they had to have it shrink. So that's why they're always 12 to 18 degrees off, because they're operating under the wrong assumptions. And I feel bad for like Captain Cook and all those guys, because I'm not sure that they certainly imagine they're just like the scientists and explorers today. The last thing that a scientist is going to think when he's out doing research is that his results are showing him a flat Earth.
Oh, it's a foregone conclusion on the deepest level I've ever seen.
Right.
Like, it really is.
And that should be evidence too, right? Don't you think that's
It
part?
is.
Yeah, that's part of the. Yeah, exactly.
When people get triggered, that's evidence.
When you see that guy scratching his arm and sitting up in his chair and don't put me up there with that moron. It's like you have to see something's wrong there. That there's and I understand it on the saddest level, because I feel for the guy. It's something that was taught to him when he was 3 years old, and put in movies and commercials and every logo. It's everywhere. The globe, until you become a flat earther, you don't realize how much that globe is in your face constantly. Everywhere. And it's just, once you realize that, you start thinking, is that necessary? But you see that guy, he's just, he can't imagine how anybody could think that, because what it entails is that he's been lied to his entire life. And that sucks. And I wish it wasn't true, because it means I wasted 35 years of my life. But it's true.
Yeah,
we were lied to.
I was saying this earlier. I mean, there's a positive and there's a negative side to it. You see a lot of flat earthers say that the paradigm shift would allow for most of the corruption to be revealed, and it would be a long process and whatnot if this were to come out in a way. But you got the people on the other side saying that the ideas are dangerous. Those are the ones that trigger me to realize there's something wrong with them. That he even in that bit, and he equated it to. He said bad ideas create dangerous situations.
He said
people
die
because
they
of bad
create
ideas.
death. Yeah, death.
Yeah, I mean, that's how threatened that man felt.
And does he realize that, like, science used to think that science's main belief about sickness was bloodletting? That's a scientific belief. That science said, when you're sick, we need to get rid of your blood, and they used to drain people's blood. Well, that amounted to death, I'm sure. And then they realized that's the great thing about science, though, is that you should be able to watch its progression, and when it does make a mistake, it corrects it. Well, there's a hang up in that, that we got to a place where we can clearly show that there was some errors made, and they're not correcting it. They're adding things. That's scientism.
The institution I'm talking about.
Yep.
Right there.
Yep. So
there's too much money in the grant. They got a whole little system all set up a certain way.
And that's the problem.
It employs a lot of people.
Absolutely. That's why it's impossible to. That's why I say, I don't want to be doom and gloom. I just don't understand how you come out of it, because there's too much invested in the system, and that's why I think NASA jokes around as far as this goes, as far as putting out constant footage, and when we put something out, then they'll put out these planets, because they're so confident in the fact that they can't be found out. I mean, it's
Oh, there was an article the other day on RT, and it said Russian cosmonaut proves that the Earth's no. It didn't say anything about the shape of the Earth.
trolls,
The
trolls.
picture. Yeah,
conspiracy
defeated
theorists.
the trolls the other day, and they covered it. That there are people saying the ISS is fake. See, and that's getting into the public consciousness as well. A ton of people don't even know that that's a possibility. Like, think about it. The masses. No, I love the ISS. I thought it was awesome. You know what I mean?
The View or no?
I'm just saying, like, the idea of it. Like, when before I started searching these things, so people haven't even like thought of that mark. So to see these articles come out, they're really just promoting it all in a very dramatic way. They don't know what to do with it. It seems.
No, and I think that's kind of more evidence for me, at least, that it's organic. Is that because it's been taught to people as being so dumb that when somebody like Kyrie comes out and says something, the media doesn't feel like they need to get permission. That it's just we need to go cover this. This NBA player thinks the Earth is flat. Well, they don't have time to kind of clean up shit. It's not like a false flag attack or something where they've got time to plan it out. How is it going to be released? How are we going to do it? When something like that just hits, there is no planning for it. They can't. And I think that they thought they never would have to, because I think they really thought they were far enough along that it would never be questioned. And they were really close. They were really, really close. I'm not sure, like I said, another 50 years or something, and 20 years maybe, I don't know if anybody would have ever tried to bring it back. And, that's a lot to just people's open-mindedness and still ability. I think a lot of us understood that we were being enslaved. I mean, when I woke up to kind of reality, I understood that I was being enslaved, but I didn't know how. The
Federal Reserve did it for me.
Good point.
That nailed it.
And in fact, that's one of the biggest ones, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, those two, legal fiction and the Fed. That was when I was like, oh, okay, what the fuck?
Yeah.
I just sat back in awe.
And that was probably 3 years ago for me. And I'm sure you've seen it. There's like a video that's like 10 minutes that explains the Federal Reserve System. I thought it was like one of the best videos ever made. It's like
I'd have to see it. Yeah,
it's like 10 minutes. Forever. It's like little cartoon characters, and it just walks through.
Oh yeah, I think I've seen that.
Yeah, it's like great. I don't know what it's called, but if I can think of it, but it's one of the best videos I've ever seen, because it really summed it up. And at the end of it, you're like, oh my goodness, I can't. I see what's going on here. It explained how they loan out money and how there's, this invisible money is created by these banks, and then you realize, oh, well, then if everyone went to get their money out of the bank, there would be 10% of that. The other money is all created in La La Land, and then you once.
Oh, they got complete control, man.
Oh, they've got it, yeah, and that's what's scary, is that I really do feel like they felt like they didn't have to worry about this, and I think they've always felt like, even if it came out, like when we started speaking out, that if enough people just said that's crazy, you guys are all nuts, I would have definitely gotten off YouTube real quick, as far as saying that. I mean, that's.
Why do you think I'm here? Honestly, at this point, still, it's like I'm speaking to such a huge crowd, talking to you and whatnot. I'm confident at this point that there are severe problems with the globe Earth cult, heliocentric math cult.
Right.
There's a lot of problems with it, and I don't care if you go to geocentricity. I don't care if you go to flat Earth. Study and know why you're doing it. I've seen a lot of dogma lately, especially from the Globers. They're the ones who are the most dogmatic. But
and there's a lot of flat earthers too, and I would even put myself into that. And that's that's something I can admit that that's my biggest problem. So I always try and bring myself back out of that, because ultimately you need to recognize, and I think this is something that impresses me about JLB. He's one of the few people that will come out fully and say, we don't know that any book's been written when they say it is. That people, if you look at our history, your history prior to your grandparents, you don't know, you don't have a clue. And as far as the nation's history, you can't even, go back very far until you just get to the point where you have to realize that people knew the news because people rode there on horses and went to Washington, D.C., got the news, and then went back to their states. Via horseback. So whatever the news was wanting to be, whatever they wanted to tell people, they just told them. and people would believe it. So if anybody thinks our history is like, oh, people wrote down history, history must be true, you are out of your mind. That there is no.
All inferred.
Yeah, it's all and it's of course his story. I mean, when they say that, it's true. It's written by the winners, and also Napoleon, I think, said that it's just a collected, agreed upon story.
Set of lies.
Yeah, there you go. Agreed upon set of lies. And that's the truth. It's just, it has to be agreed upon.
Look at the story of World War II now, when what you learn in school compared to what you realize it was, and who was the victors of that. You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely,
they just combined forces. There was a defeat of the people of Germany and their homeland and the destruction that it endured, but they just became stronger entity, in my opinion. I think they merged with America and Russia.
Absolutely.
And and they played it off and done this whole telling this wrong story the whole time.
Right, and they promoted. I mean, I remember don't you remember growing up having this love? And I don't want to say I don't have a love for America, because I do. And I love
the ideals are amazing.
The ideals are awesome.
Is an amazing idea.
The Constitution is awesome. The Constitution, I love the verbiage of it. Reading that gives me, like, I get all empowered. Or the Declaration of Independence. There's so much right about it, but it's also a good tool to tell people that this is what we believe in. This is what we push. This is what our goals are. You're like, yeah, go get them, government. And then you just go back to work and school, and then you realize they're just bombing other countries and taking them over, and they're
that's the thing,
promoting their own interests, and you're just like, hold on a second here now. And like I've told people before, the CIA is obvious. What they do is they wait until a country has a new president that comes out, or somebody's going to run for president. They say, we're going to fix all these problems, guys. We're going to do what's right for people. We're going to fix the environment. Well, as soon as the United States sees that, they send the CIA to go and find the alternate group and say, hey, we're going to put you into office through a military coup to make sure this guy doesn't make it. And all you have to do in return is make sure that our business interests are pushed forward. So then that coup says, okay, deal. So then the CIA goes and infiltrates through all their various methods, implements a new government, which is pro-American businesses, and they take it over. And then you wait, because those people all leave, right? They flee. Now they got to go to another country until they find another person who comes along and says, I'll fix it. I'll take care of things. And then the whole thing starts over again.
Hitman.
Yep. That's all it is. It's all it's ever been. And that's all that they do. And so when you look, you would say, well, if that's true, Jeran, then you would have all these corporations and companies that would just be filthy rich. And well, that's what you have. That's what you got. That's what everything is about.
Remember Mitt Romney. Corporations are people too, my friend. They changed the law.
Joker.
And and he was just like, guess what, bitches? I got new rules.
Jeez, how much is wrong with the laws? I mean, the whole idea of an LLC.
Shout out to Issa Mahalski.
Yeah,
talk
he does
to
a
that
good job
man
about
if you want to. Yeah, if you want to know about this legal system, this brother knows exactly what's up, man.
Oh, it's so sad, because I don't know how that stuff happened, and how. I mean, how can you create an LLC? It's so classic that you can create a company and say, I'm making an LLC, so it's then when you do something illegal or something, you're like, well, that wasn't me, that was my company. So
yeah, it's a limited liability thing. It's
right.
Not me.
I'm fine. Don't touch me. But my company's been rude. They've been stealing money and doing all kinds of things, and go punish that company. That's all. That's all it is, and it's pathetic, sad. All right, final words. I said 2 hours, and it's been 3 hours and 45 minutes. I suck. God. Cannot do.
Well, the conversation's always good, and we had a lot to go over for sure.
Maybe I'll try and cut it. And I want to tell people about a cool ass site. I forgot about that. Go to go ahead and pull it up right here. Now I can't remember. Yeah, Vibi. Not Jibby, but Vibi.
Shout out Jibby.
Is he out there?
Yeah, he was out there.
Awesome.
A knowledge scavenger.
So if you go to Vibi.com here, I am on the screen, right? Yeah. This is like, I've always wanted this. I'm like, oh my goodness, I can't believe it. So basically you can go in here, create your own accounts, free, everything. And nobody's doing it yet. It's brand new. So you're not going to find a lot in here, but what you do is you just grab any YouTube video. Again, once you sign up or whatever, and then you put it in there, and then it lets you take any section out of it. So you just highlight the beginning of the part you want, and then the end part, and then it saves it as a separate video. And
No
then,
way.
Yeah, and then each person has their own. Oops, I didn't mean to hit follow. Each person has their own account. So like this guy's got his own account, and you can see his VIBs, they call them. So these are little individual clips, and then you can look at his followers or whatever, and each person has, and you can have like, yeah, see, oh wait, no, you can name your own sections. So for instance, if I wanted to make a page that was, answers to or flat Earth mentions or whatever, then I would have a little page that would have that only, and it would be all my clips from just those. So I mean, super awesome, because I hate downloading like full videos when I'm only looking for a clip.
Yeah, for sure.
And they have
It's a very effective tool.
Yeah, it's really cool. So anyway, yeah, check that out, and that's great for sending little clips, and then also making your own little pages to where maybe you've got a bunch of evidence of NASA fakery or launches, and then you can create those, and then you can link to just that page. Oh, here's the create vid thing. So when you get one of these, let me grab this Alex Jones. Okay, and so you just drop it in here and start. Oh God, I have to log in. Don't know if it'll let me. Hello?
Yeah,
Anyway.
it's a pretty
Yeah,
effective
it's
tool.
really nice and free. I haven't seen anything on it at all that's asking for any kind of money. I don't know these things. I got too many windows. Oh, yeah, great. It does work.
Nice.
I don't know. Usually when I've got this OBS thing open, I have trouble with those little these thing logins because I've got too many windows open, so I don't know which one it's appearing in. You think it'd appear in the one that you're on, but I don't see it. But anyway,
Yeah, it's good software though.
yeah, it's really cool, and it actually works really well. And then it's as you save them, I'll kind of pretend like this is it. As you're like marking little clips, it puts them over here into little separate things. So you could even take like our show today that we just did, play it when there's a good part that we say something important, then put it over here, and then this becomes, you can take all these and patch them together and make a master video that would be, take out all of our bullshit,
Oh wow.
It would take out my Christian bashing so that people can pretend that didn't happen. No,
Yeah,
I love you
yeah.
Christians out there. I mean, and for the most part,
Seriously.
they all give me so much, Robbie Davidson and those guys to invite me to the Flat Earth Convention. Awesome, because I know that those guys are Christian,
Well,
and I love them to
I
death,
would
so.
like to say I don't think you're Christian bashing. And
Well, I'm not.
You know,
I was a joke.
analyzing worldviews. I know you're not.
Yeah.
It's something I think needs to be said.
Thank you. I
When
appreciate
you're
that.
analyzing worldviews and paradigms and thought structures, and you're doing it on a deeper level, nothing should be off the table. Second Thessalonians says, "Prove all things." I really mean that. Like,
Yeah.
I've gone back to the Bible a ridiculous amount of times here, and especially in the past year and a half.
And
But
people
it's
always
about
tell me,
studying these other cultures and religions. Well, at least for me.
right? And people
And I
always
know
say to me,
you
"Why
do
don't
that
you?"
much research too.
Yeah, and they're like, "Why don't you bash on Islam? Why don't you?" It's like, oh my goodness, I didn't know that was what I was supposed to be doing because that's easy. It's like I go after Christianity because, like you said, I like everything about it, but I just show why I'm not one. But
Yeah, I
as
don't
far
think
as
there's anything wrong
Islam or
with
things like
different
that, I mean,
belief systems.
look into Muhammad and figure out for yourself whether I need to even bring that up. Look into
Yeah.
the things that that they believe, and there's issues there all over. But again, people can believe whatever they want, and I do not think, at least in my life, I've never had a Muslim come to me and try and attack me. I just haven't had that happen. So personally, I think they want to be left alone, live and let live. They want to live peacefully, and I want to live peacefully. So I don't think that they flew planes into buildings. I don't think that they have taken out a whole group of Americans. I think that they should want to, considering the things that we've done in some of their places. But at the same time, I think people just want to be happy, and we've got a couple of psychopaths that run the joint, and they don't care about your happiness. They care about your complacency with their nonsense, and that's what we get. There's a lot of killing and death and fear and nonsense and lies and rocket launches and spacewalks and globe pictures and everything else. So final words, Cathexis, I'm going to dump it. Any final words?
Well, just quickly, I want to say, I hope anybody didn't get the impression that I'm trying to speak for all Christians. There is such a massive variety of Protestants, and even some Catholics say they are Christian because they believe that that's what it is. Personally, I think Catholicism's a little different, but we won't get into that. But there's so much to be gained from just understanding everything on this earth, this good earth. Study the Vedic, study, this is what I've done, and you got to put yourself in like a neutral position and start realizing what are beliefs and what are dogmas and and that's what I've been doing, and I talk about it quite a lot, but I think it's probably the most important because that's what everybody's dealing with in a way. They've had their paradigm rattled, and they're trying to, put this all together, but you have to put things aside before you can see it clearly, is my whole point and perspective. So, I just appreciate, when people recognize that's we shouldn't be so assertive as with what we know. Like the Globers are certain that it's a globe. But the thing is they believe that it's a globe and they feel certain. It doesn't mean anything necessarily, so. Yeah, I really appreciate you having me on, man, this conversation, though.
No, yeah, you're great to talk to, and I know we have a lot in common and I don't have any problem with anybody that isn't willing to say that they think the earth is flat, and because we don't know. And so if I ever do make claims like that, I'm trying to get people to look into it. That's it, because I'm confident enough to know that if you do look into it, and I mean realistically and actually with an open mind, if you go into anything with a bias, well, then you shouldn't expect to come out with any different beliefs.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
It should be pretty obvious. But I mean,
everybody's confirming their bias. I'll tell you what, and it happens on flat Earth side. It happens on concave side. When people looking into this stuff, there's that confirmation bias issue, and we need to be as honest as possible as we can. Looking down this, and they need to as well.
I agree. I will say one thing though about that I think is a little tweak that you have to add to that.
What's that?
People should attack the current scientific belief. The
pseudoscience. Well, absolutely, the scientism stuff. Absolutely,
anything that's science that is put up on a pedestal and called the truth, then you should go after it, because that's how you better humanity. Because what you're doing is you're either reconfirming that top belief is the truth, that it should be believed, that it should maintain its spot at the top, or you're helping uncover the truth that may have been hidden behind layers, or the truth that may be a deception, that somebody put that scientific fact up top when it's not the truth.
Could be a beast in itself. It just kind of got hodgepodge, ad hoc, built up that way, and they're just like, shit, how long can we go with this?
Yeah, there's no way I don't think NASA ever thought they would go this far, or they wouldn't put out that shit video that they have. Right. So
they go up there, realize it's not what they thought it was. Yeah, they're not going to come back and tell us. Matt Powerland's right in that regard.
No. They're not going to just come back. Oh, we were wrong. Church was right. Get to church on Sunday, and here's our card. Yeah. We're done. We're quitting. No, I just think that's the difference, is that when I hear people talking about how, because if, like the guy at Metabunk or those kind of people, they do like to say, because I'll get mad at them and just say, you guys are just promoting the going belief. You're just saying to go to Wikipedia, or here's your Snopes or whatever. And then they say, but you're doing the same thing. You're just pushing flat Earth. You're just coming from a flat Earth perspective. And I really want people to notice that is a big ass difference, because if I'm wrong, then all I'm going to do is prove that the going belief is true, and I'm going to prove that we were taught the truth, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if I'm right, then guess what? It means we've all been deceived, and I mean all 7 billion or 5 billion or 3 billion, whatever there is.
Billion and billion.
Billions and billions, like the amount of years it takes for evolution, right? So then we're helping to get those people and the tons of people that are going to come after us out of this deception. And so that's the difference.
It could be like Elysium. You know what I mean? And now we're figuring it out, going, what the hell have they done?
And I mean, imagine the opposite. So if we did what, I'll bring up Tim Osmond again, if we did what he wants, which is to recognize that we've been taught the truth, that flat Earth is silly, it's sophism, it's nonsense, okay, if that's the case, then we all back down. We all go back to believing everything. And then if it's not the truth, then we just cost, the future of mankind the ability to get out of it.
And yeah, it's just, I think it comes down to the aspect of what free thought means and the way it should be used. There shouldn't be any real opposition to thinking about your cosmology differently.
No.
That's it. Our place in the cosmos and our place in this world and our purpose, these are the things that we're seeking in this process.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to set paradigms aside. You can't look at the flat Earth idea with heliocentric lenses. There's so much that's embedded into that particular form of science that creates a bias where you don't understand something.
Right.
I've seen it happen.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, you're not doing anything to go out and prove that what they've all taught us. I mean, that's what like Mick West does. He goes out and shows his camera. I'm this high off the water, and this is this, and this is exactly the same as the globe. It's like, okay, fantastic.
With his big, large check, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, why don't you go out and try and do the same kind of inquiry into whether or not the flat Earth is true? You don't do that because it would absolutely destroy your paradigm. People think the same thing for me. It doesn't matter. I don't care if the Earth isn't flat. It doesn't matter to me. If I go out and I prove that the Earth's a globe, then I'll be the first one to admit that. The problem is I'm not seeing that at all. And when we did the 4 mile test, my wife and I, there was no curvature.
Well, here's another problem: is there's people research levels. So if a person goes down the line and they're like, you know what, I'm going to engage with this idea, and they go, let's say, a week and a half, 3 weeks, maybe even up to 3 months. Unfortunately, sometimes it's not enough because they'll resort back to, I've seen enough that it's a globe, that it must be. And I've seen this happen on numerous occasions. And, I think that it kind of happened to me for a little bit, but then the more you power through, the more you understand things. People say that Chicago skyline, what is it, 5 miles away, or is it the 42 one?
It's like 50
one
miles,
that you
I
can
think.
see clearly.
I usually say 50, but...
Yeah. They look at that and they think, you've seen the ones where it's obscured, though, right? They think
like
that's
halfway.
the curvature.
Yeah, I know.
They think that what's being obscured, and it's being magnified in a way. The refraction has all these very powerful effects through, the moving columns of air and humidity and whatnot. I think Rob Ski was onto something with his idea of the atmospheric magnification.
It has
but you
to
see,
be.
these are answers that you find that are plausible and make sense and seem to match reality.
And you know what? That's another thing is that people don't. As I'm researching, there's so many instances that could have turned me into a globe believer that never come out to be the truth. That every point
you've got to push through a lot of nonsense they have.
Yeah, and I mean, but even in my there'll be at certain points where I'm like, oh man, if this exists, I bet you that means that it's a globe, and I look and look and look and then realize it doesn't exist, or it's just every chance I get to prove it to myself, it keeps proving itself over and over again, and it's like you can't argue it anymore. You're just like, okay, I got to carry this through.
That's why I say you can't unsee what you've seen. But the problem is a lot of people are stopping and they're not going as far as they need to, I think, sometimes.
Right. After the Max Egan flight, and I was like, okay, well, he did that flight in 11 hours. I witnessed it myself. I saw him in, Sydney, and then 11 hours later, he was in Santiago, Chile. So I said, okay, and then I said, you know what? I said, and it just hit me like it was a ton of bricks. Like, if there's a cruise that goes there, I said, I bet I can just calculate that. There's no way they can change that. Because my whole thing about the planes, you have to add 200 miles per hour to planes to make that flight possible. And then you have to get into, what does the sound barrier do? And can they get up above 40,000? And what is the speed difference when they get up there?
Weren't they in the jet stream, though? Wasn't that kind of
but that's what I mean, is that's not a guarantee, but it kind of is in the fact that those jet streams are always there. But I mean, there is times when they're only 100 kilometers an hour, which then I would think flights would take 12 or 13 hours, and that's pretty rare that you see that. So I was just kind of questioning that, like, well, you know what they can't do? They can't fix a cruise ship. I said a cruise ship goes 20 miles per hour. If you top it out, you're going to go 22, and so I was like, oh man, let me look into that. And I was like, but I bet you if there's none, then that tells me exactly why. I looked and looked and looked. There is not a cruise that goes from either Australia or New Zealand to South America. And I mean, that there, you're like, okay, well, I mean, how many times can I prove this to myself that those are the things that would exist? Now, somebody will come a year later and tell me, here's this cruise. It's like, yeah, now there's a cruise. You know, now that's the way it always works, is that they will always do things after. But when
they have responded to you on numerous occasions, and what you guys do on Globebusters for sure.
Yep. Oh, well, more than anything. I mean, I've seen that over and over again, where it's shown. I mean, you know, I always go back to that planetarium thing. That was the biggest one for me, because it was one of the biggest proofs that I said, this is the fact that I know that the North Pole star doesn't move, because I said you can go to these planetarium softwares, fast forward for thousands of years, and the star stays right there. And I said, that's because if it moves, you know, so many degrees in 5,000 years or something, well, it has to move a tiny bit amount every day. You know, now granted, it might not be something you could see, but if you fast forwarded 1,000 years, well, it better be 1/5 of the place it's supposed to be in 5,000 years. Well, they can't do that because it would change, you know, 2 weeks from now, the stars wouldn't be correct on that software.
Yeah.
So then when I saw that, I was like, okay, great. I'm going to show people this all the time. Within a week of me making a video about it, they fixed it. You can't go past 2,500 or before 1,500. You're like, why would they do that? They should have just left it, and I would have thought maybe it was proof. But when I make a video about it, and then a week later, they completely change their software, I'm like, why didn't you just tell me? Well, you should have called me and said, Jeran, you're right on. You keep going. Because that's what they do.
And then the ALS thing with Hawkins.
That's classic.
Yeah.
That's where I get confused, though. Does somebody call them and say, put him on there? Because they didn't have him on there for their reason, which I know that reason. You know?
And what sucks is we're kind of helping them fix their little construct.
That's the scariest thing. You know what I thought about? This is a crazy thought, but let's say that they keep doing this, and then what they do is they kill everybody. Let's say they just murder everybody, but they come back out again, and now they've even got the heliocentric system even better. Because they
if you
keep
look
correcting
at the 1900s, you know, what have eugenics in World War II, it's something like 110 million in total from the wars, you know, and it was every 18 years you had a new conflict. So it was every generation getting trauma-based mind controlled.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like they've set up to this point, and I think that, you know, we're very close to a possible dystopia if there isn't a paradigm shift.
Yeah.
We all see it. I've got my tag on me right now on my cell phone that I'm using. I keep it in my pocket all the time. Everybody does. Yeah. Everybody does. And it's a GPS tag. And we leave the house with it. What does everybody do? Mm-hmm. Oh, shoot, I got to go back and get my phone.
I need my tracking device. They're not going to know where I'm at.
If you ever want to scare yourself, go look at your Google report of all of your actions and things that you've done on your phone.
I won't download those things. I'm like scared.
Oh, I got to show it to you, dude. It's I forgot what it's called but it's
you took the upload feature. Or you did the download where it says like we'll send you your activity or something?
No, it's posted on a particular, you know, something.google.com. I can't remember the name off the top of my head right now. But it shows everything that you've asked Google, everything, everywhere you've moved in your GPS. Even your Wi-Fi picks up your GPS. It triangulates. So it's even when the GPS is off. It's
Do you have to have an Android for that?
Yeah, this is on my Android.
Oh, good. I have an iPhone. I'm being tracked by Apple.
Well, no, iPhone's doing the same shit. If you go look at it at its core. But that's what I'm saying. We all have these things. It doesn't matter how poor you are. You're going to have a cell phone at this point. So
it's so funny because
we're almost to the dystopia, guys.
2 or 3 years ago, Missa had a piece of black electrical tape over the front-facing camera on her iPhone. I always make fun of her. Now, if you come over and look at mine, I've got one on mine.
Well, sure.
I'm not. Yeah, I don't want. You can listen to me, but you're not watching me.
But at this point, that's why I'm comfortable talking to whoever out here, because I know what I'm saying is just a matter of finding what's true about a situation. Just ask the question, you know, like, let's figure this out, because there is enough problems that will lead me to believe that it's quite possible that it is a level plane. And it's a shocking thing, but like I said, you can't unsee what you've seen. I still don't know what it is, though. I don't know the orientation of the continents. So there are issues that are out of my purview, and I think that's really what people leverage against these ideas, is something that you can't go and analyze yourself very easily with the Southern Star Trails, where the orientation of the continents and the breadth of the southern seas. If you can't go out there and figure that out or find a reliable way to do it, I don't think it should be held against the people pursuing these ideas.
Great
point. I do have to point that out. I think it's kind of a straw man.
That's awesome that you say that, because I think people forget that. Or if one more person tells me, just go down to Antarctica and look for yourself. Take a boat down there and go around Antarctica. It's like, I've looked into that, believe it or not. And it's impossible. I mean, it's just, they've set it up that way. And again, these are the kind of things that are signs that tell me something's up. That, just to go from the tip of South America to the tip of that little fishtail of Antarctica is 600 miles. And if you look at the boats that travel in the southern seas, they go 10 miles an hour. So that's 60 hours. That's 3 days just to go from the tip of South America to the tip of Antarctica, and to go all the way around. I think it's...
Wait, is that near Deception Island?
Yeah.
Or was it near Rothschild Island? Which one was it?
I was talking about...
Those are real names.
Yeah, no, Rothschild Island and Deception Island. Deception Island's the one that has a circle, and then you go inside there. Like, it's like a... That's why they call it that. And because you're being deceived.
Pretty much. They're having a laugh.
One final thing. Do you think there's anything at the... If I gave you a free pass to the South Pole or the North Pole, where do you think you would learn more at?
Man, that's a really good question, dude. There's been this hype lately about the center of the dish. Quasi's got his thing going on. You got the Quasi people praising Quasi and doing their thing and whatnot. That's cool. It's spreading the information. It seems to be like a different level of it all. Now, it's a bit odd because of the whole blood over intent thing, but we'll leave that alone for right now. But, these guys say that there's a lot. There's one guy named Devin Maggi, and I will kind of shout him out because he does good work. And I disagree with a lot of it, but it's still good historical research on mythologies, on rare books, on the kid's doing really good work.
Mm-hmm.
But it's all about every culture had this mysterious Shambhala type center of the dish type thing. It is ever present. Even in Norse mythology and everywhere else. So that's where most people are trying to go, and I think you would get a good answer. But I think if you go south, you're going to find, at this point, I'm pretty sure it's more land.
Yeah,
I think that's what they're doing.
I would go south, because
I'd go south. And
I think that
it is a more land situation.
I couldn't imagine going south and coming back with no answer, whereas I can picture getting to the north and coming back with no answer and being like, "Damn it, I chose the wrong one." If you go south, you're going to be able to see whether the sun circles or not, and you're going to be able to see if you can continue to go past the South Pole.
You got that book World Beyond the Poles, which I read a good portion of it on my channel. That's exactly what he's saying. He's saying they have tens of thousands of miles that they discovered, and for a man to write that book in 1957, published in 58, this was before NASA went up.
You ever heard the number the Vedics say? The Vedics say we live on a plane that's 800,000 miles or something.
Well, no, it's huge, like billion.
Oh yeah, maybe you're right. I was like, maybe it's 800 million.
Yeah, it's the Brungala, I think is what it's called, and but we're in the center.
Right
in the center. But it's an infinite plane in the Vedic tradition, which I find to be a beautiful idea. You know what I mean? Like, I know Matt Powerland insists on it, and the good Christian folks love the idea of the dome, and I do too, because you have all this electromagnetic activity and such. I think it's probably an energetic dome, not necessarily if it were there. I like thinking about these things too.
Yeah, me too.
But at this point though, I do kind of think there's probably a more land situation, hidden land of some kind, because that's the most important and valuable thing humans have ever interacted with. Land controls things, and they don't want another America happening.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like they sprung a leak, killed, genocided a bunch of, you know what I mean? Like it was madness. So perhaps it's a containment unit.
I heard somebody. God, I'm trying to remember who it was. Somebody was telling a good story about 500 years ago that there was like a warming period again, and that this ice opened up, and that was the ice that ran along the Atlantic Ocean, and that it opened up America. That that was kind of like part of the ice. And I was like, man, it's a pretty good story, but I mean, it still doesn't explain Indians and a lot of other things. But the way they described it is basically like every so often there's like this warming period where another section of ice goes down and more is exposed, kind of like a slow exposure of And I think that the whole idea of global warming, they're making money off it and that kind of thing, but I think they're pushing that really to keep the ice together around. That they don't want it to get too warm. I think that's what they're doing in the skies. They're trying to reflect the sun back up because they don't want things to get too warm, because then you're going to open up some channels down there and somebody's going to see one, and then they're done, because then they're going to take that little channel right through, and just like J.E. Barrington did in the Iron Republic. So anyway, it was fun, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'm going to learn how that whole thing works with the chat donations or something, because I guess a bunch of people donated. So thank you so much if you're one. Next time I'll call you out, and if you had questions, I'll see those. I don't know where they're supposed to like go, or if they get stored or something. So that's awesome. And everybody who's donated to my Patreon and those kind of things, you guys have been awesome. And like I said, any amount that we make, please make sure that you feel I'm earning it or my wife's earning it, because I only can do as much as people help me do. It's we have money to make like everyone else, and that's how the world works. And I don't want to put ads on my videos at all, but I'm going to take advantage when I can of anything that I think will help ultimately get the truth brought out, and that's all it is. And if you can make money doing something you love, well, I think everybody would envy that. So what else do we have coming up? Check out Globebusters tomorrow. Got a good show planned, and you can email me at jeranism@yahoo. Do you have an email where people can catch you?
Oh, well, yeah, you could send it to cathexis.healing@gmail.com.
Cathexis.healing, gotcha.
Yeah, cathexis.healing@gmail.
Awesome. And your channel name and all that?
My channel, quickly, just a shout out to John, Quantum Eraser. Him and I do a show. We're on the 12th part. We're finishing up the 13th part right now, called Science versus Scientism, where we're looking at actual published science to show that the dogma of materialism is absurd. Like it's so in place. So we kind of go after it. But yeah, dude, great job on Globebusters tomorrow. I really appreciate you having me on, man.
Yeah, anytime. I'd love to talk it out, and I've been stuck on a video that I've been doing for a whole while that it's coming out soon. I keep, when you do it in things and then you find something else, you're like, oh shit, man, that's going to change everything. So I've had to I want to tell the good story and make sure that it's all cleaned up and beautiful. So what else do we have? I think that's it. So Globebusters Sunday, and then Raw on Monday. But appreciate you guys so much, and we're going to find the truth eventually. It's and to those guys that hate what we're doing, I'm sorry. I wish that it wasn't that way. I wish that you'd realize that I'm doing this for the right reasons, and that I have no sinister plans, or I'm no charlatan or anything like that. I just want the truth.
What's the danger? This is what gets to me. What's the danger?
Yeah, and if I was saying something wrong, if I was telling you to go out and hurt people, or I was telling you to go out and break windows or something, well, then I can understand somebody saying, hey, this is damaging. What I'm telling people to do is go out and investigate the world that they live in. Research the things that you were taught, because there's a possibility that you were not taught the truth. And I don't think, I think we all get one chance here, and that sucks if somebody steals your ability to take it upon yourself.
Steals your reality.
Yeah, that's true. Man, what a shitty thing to have happen. I always say I'm doing this for my grandparents, because they were great people. I didn't know them for very long, but they lived their life and were lied to the whole time. They did. I really think it wasn't wasted. They had a business and had kids and grandkids and holidays and everything. Yeah. But I look at it and I'm like, man, what a sucky ass thing to live and die and never really know the truth. So I'm going to look for it, and you're responsible for your own beliefs. Everyone is. And so if you want to just de facto give those away, that's on you. I want to at least feel comfortable knowing that my beliefs are my beliefs for my reasons that I researched and I felt good about. And if I get things wrong, I can live with that, but I'm not going to be very happy if I find out that I believe things because other people told me, and then I find out. That's another thing I told my wife the other day. That's the one thing I ask when I die. Just please tell me all the truths. I don't even care if there's no afterlife, if we all just give me 5 minutes to find out, like, Kennedy, yeah, he did. Okay. You know, I just want a 5-minute rundown of like the history of the Earth. Like, how old was the Earth? I knew it wasn't 4.5. Okay, all right. Evolution bullshit, right? All right, cool. All right, I'm going to sleep now. So that's all I ask when I die. I just want to know the truth.
It's such a broad swath that we have to hit in order to kind of understand the scope of this. But
it's
absolutely
it's definitely
necessary.
broad. Yeah, it's definitely broad. There's a lot that goes into it, and yeah, that's the thing about this Earth. Look how magnificent and crazy and unbelievable and unimaginable it is. You know, and people think this is an accident. Yeah, right. Take it easy, guys, and open your mind. There's truth inside. Peace.
Peace to the gods.